Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we're talking about FLCL, or Fooly Cooly, Americanized as Fooly Cooly, a 6-episode OVA which aired in Japan in 2000 and on Adult Swim in 2003. It gained a cult following and was widely acclaimed despite its short length. It was shown again in reruns on Toonami in subsequent years. The show is the coming-of-age story of Naota, a 12-year-old boy whose suburban life is disturbed by the arrival of the mysterious Vespa-riding, bass guitar-wielding Haruko Haruhara. The series has been noted for its symbolic content, unusual plot, and its experimental nature. The director, Kazuya Tsurumaki, has said that he tried to break the rules of anime while making FLCL. For example, by choosing a contemporary Japanese band to provide the soundtrack, The Pillows. The soundtrack is amazing, go listen to it. And patterning the style more after a Japanese TV commercial or promotional video as opposed to typical anime, creating a work that is short but densely packed. FLCL's localization director and scriptwriter Mark Handler stated that localization of the script was the hardest part of the show. The in-jokes in the show included obscure pop culture references that had to be decoded and transferred to English audiences. Tsurumaki responded to criticisms of FLCL, stating, "Comprehension should not be an important factor in FLCL."
That tracks.
We watched the first
Very much.
3 episodes of the 6-series OVA. So, what'd you think?
If you
Yeah.
don't mind, Bob,
After
I want to interject real quick because I started to bring this up before the podcast, and we agree this is probably better to do it here. Have you ever, thought really highly of your understanding or comprehension of something, and or being able to at least parse works of media and be able to dissect them and just kind of understand what they're going for? And then you run into something that makes you question your own intelligence. Because I got to admit, I feel like maybe I know where this is trying to go as a series, because I will, spoiler, I ended up just shotgunning the whole series because I forgot it was just 6 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am not 100% sure on what the takeaway was.
That's funny because Nick and I had that conversation after we finished the first 3, and we decided, or at least I did, that I wasn't going to watch the last 3 before we did the podcast because I wanted to just talk about the first 3.
Oh,
But
I
definitely
appreciate
need to
that.
watch. I definitely need to rewatch the rest.
I had a very similar reaction, but that's where we're different. As mine's like, okay, I just need to see if there's something here I can discern, and I don't get it. So I'm at a point now entering into this conversation of I don't know if I know anything.
now I feel like I need to watch the next 3 within the next few days because I feel like it was going somewhere with these 3. Maybe.
I have a loose idea, but I feel like there's something I'm blatantly missing, and I can't put my finger on it.
This show,
It's unique and of itself.
Oh,
I hope.
Speaking specifically to the idea of where this show is going and what the takeaway is, I think as an American audience, we are at a severe disadvantage of just parsing that. Because so much of what the show is doing is made up of specific cultural Japanese references. Everything from the visuals to social norms. Yes, localizing this I'm sure is extremely hard because a lot of it defies it. It is specific to the original localization. But even trying to move all that stuff aside, this is a show that I have seen I don't know, a dozen times over the years because I was there, I taped it off air when it originally showed on Toonami, and so like I've had the tape of this whole time, and I've watched it, a whole bunch of times, especially because I was the one who provided the tape that was passed around to all my friends, but then every time we just end up watching it together because people love this show. And even watching it this time, I'm still not sure like what the moral stance and message of the show is trying to be. And
Thank God.
I have not watched the last 3 episodes this time yet. But I remember pieces of it, and I basically last night after I finished episode 3, and Joe can attest to this, I was doing the red string on the wall full of photographs being like, okay, but is it, when you look at this piece and it seems like they're leading to this piece, but then this piece over here, that seems to counter that. And then, but really they're doing all of this in a way that this is together. And like, this seems like it could have been like a mistake or by happenstance, but then you see them do it over here where it seems like brilliant execution. And I'm just like,
if we don't do it for the final cut of this, Nick, and go ahead and leave this in if we don't, we need you to speed that up just because I think the effect would be great, because that's kind of the path I went down to. And like, I really think we have like a coming of age story, or the idea of it, and learning, and the idea of learning to come to age. But I'm not sure I'm right about that.
Yeah, like I've seen this maybe 3 times in my life. The first time I had no idea what was going on, and it was just a bunch of like sounds and colors basically.
Mm-hmm.
The second time I was like, oh, okay, there is some sort of story in here. And this time, like, it's weird like coming back to it after you see the whole thing, because you start to see like there's so many like threads that are tangled up, and you start to see like which ones are which, like connected to other things, and it starts making a little more sense.
Yeah, like a thing that people say is like a mark of really good like movie or piece of media or whatever is that there is more to unpack on multiple rewatchings. And I think this show is a touchstone because it has that effect of you pick up something new every time you watch it. But most of the time with a piece of media like that, like you get a story when you first watch it and then you pick up more pieces. With this show, it's like you need to watch it 3 times before you can make out anything.
And to be fair, this is the third. I'm pretty sure this is the third time I've watched it, because I did watch it when it first aired on Toonami,
Mm-hmm.
and I was definitely far more confused then, because there are references in there I now get that I didn't have the benefit of then. And then I remember watching it at least once in my like very early to mid 20s. I may have tried to watch it or watched it again since then and now, but I'm not 100% sure on this. So this may genuinely be my third time watching it. It's just been incredibly spaced out.
Mm.
But I still feel like I'm confused.
Based purely off of 3 episodes, not to sound like that guy or girl who just says words and expects you to understand, but for me watching these episodes, my summation is allegorical Scott Pilgrim.
I can kind of see that.
There's a lot of Scott Pilgrim. So okay, Bob, this is what I was thinking this whole time, and it's part of why I was so excited to sit down and record today.
Whoa.
For this show,
okay,
do you actually feel that you can do the sort of step-by-step walkthrough of the episodes that you usually do? Okay.
No.
Okay, good.
It's more of a summation. It's like it's a continuation of everything. It's you have your protagonist, Naoto. Naoto. Thank you. I hate learning names. And me watching this, by the end of the 3 episodes, I feel like everything and this is my take, so bear with me. This is me and my view. Watching it, I think everything is allegorical. We're watching it through his eyes. I think there's some hints of robots and such, but everything is just him getting older. Him finding his personality, sexuality. He's in that age, which is weird, But with everything that goes on, whether with a ridiculously named character, Mamomo, or
Mamimi?
with Mamimi, thank you.
I
Milady.
I did not realize that was her name until this watch.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Listen,
That's his brother's girlfriend who likes to hit
No.
on him.
Ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even
Like-
sure, was she his girlfriend at all? I just know she had
Well,
definitely
she
some crush on
liked him because he saved her from the burning school. I'm
Yes.
pretty
Right.
much with this episode for myself. I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in all 3 episodes
Yeah.
because it's easier that way to hit all of the beats
Well,
for each
was
character.
I was gonna say, like, if I'm the one with like the most watches of this show under his belt,
Mhm.
would you like me to do the sort of beat by beat
Oh yes,
step through?
absolutely.
Because I would,
and then I'll interject where
Yeah.
I feel necessary to bring in my thoughts.
because I think it'll be absolutely hilarious just to hear, for me to say what happens in a scene and everybody else just goes, "Oh, what?"
So
I
hold on.
agree.
Real quick, interjection of one joke. This is arguably the anime that should have been titled Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it kind of feels like that's happening all the time.
It does. One of my notes is actually that, like, if you've ever watched a Marx Brother movie,
Oh yes.
the way that, like, there is like a normal movie going on about, like, oh, the mystery or the stolen painting or the school needs to not close down. Like, there's a normal movie going on, and then the Marx Brothers are also there having their own movie in parallel. The way that they like riff on everything and, you know, give people comeuppance, but in this way that doesn't actually affect the main plot. Like, it is like parallel movies happening in one movie.
Mhm.
This show is doing that, but with like 6 parallel ideas, and none of them are the main one. So it's just like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
But all right, would we like to starting at episode 1, Fooly Cooly?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I did not take notes for reading this through in step by step. So if I skip anything, please jump in and let me know. But we start with Naota and Mamimi hanging out under the bridge by the water runoff. And we have basically, boy, what do we pick up at this moment? We know Mamimi is
Oh,
I was going to say a very handsy high school girl, but yeah, basically, who is like getting very handsy with Naota, even though she was the girlfriend of his older brother, who has since left for America to be on like a baseball scholarship, because I'm pretty sure like Naota's older brother is like American college baseball player now. Mamimi is a high school girl, and Naota is a middle school kid.
Yep.
I
Especially
can't
with the cigarette smoke that he had to take note of.
Yeah, she's clearly my very first takeaway in rewatching this for the first time in a long time is she's definitely, like so many people at that age, not having a great time, and life's not going the way the direction she maybe had hoped or wanted it to, and she's dealing with some kind of upheaval, and it's very clear in her behavior. The cigarette smoke, the displaced affection on her heartthrob's little brother, since the actual object of her affection is not present.
Right.
Yeah, bad family life, bad home life. She gets bullied at school. We find out later.
And let me state here, the way the art is, when we get to further scenes, it leads into what Fooly Cooly pretty much is.
Yeah.
I would, to that point, even say the art, when we first start, kind of captures that as well done and as clear and visually appealing as it is. Her posture, her style, you very much feel this is someone who is not happy.
Hey, she
Yeah.
has a bat though, and her hands are backwards.
Naota has the bat.
Naota has his brother's bat.
True.
Yeah. So it's funny that you said that you think everything is allegorical. Like everything, I think is definitely thematic, but I think there is supposed to be an idea that like this is like a semi-fantasy story where things are actually happening to him, but everything is sort of symbolic.
Mm.
I think she is like the first of many manic pixie dream girls we will meet during the course of the show.
Yeah.
I agree.
Even down to the fact that like she is using the old school film camera and just always has it on her just because like there are so many people I knew in my actual high school experience who were this girl.
I was gonna say, big asterisk here for Nick's interpretation of this show is that he's got a lot of like personal experience in life that like is reflected in the show. So like, there's a lot of
Oh yeah, you remember when we were talking about Agretsuko and specifically the arc about the new kid who just like and we all had that feeling of just like, no, I resonate too hard with this. I'm uncomfortable now. Like you remember that? That is this entire show to me. Every piece of this show.
Let me tell you, to kind of play off that. Not to say I have a type apparently, but I found 3 of my first 5 girlfriends in the show.
Yep.
And they were all at a relatively close age to the character of Momimi, who, if I remember correctly, they said she was 17. I think I was 17, 18. And like, oh man, this feels real familiar. So yeah, I get you.
Like, and there is definitely a way that I think that's a real credit to the show in that like they have like painted in a show that is going to have like space pirate robot fights. They have painted incredibly realistic and resonant characters. They're also just some of the like most like upsetting to interact with ones that I can ever remember having interactions with. But like I like good execution of uncomfortable concepts, you know? Like maybe that's more for me, and I'm sure I'll point it out every single time. But yeah. So that's Momimi. And then the next scene is they're at the vending machine and he puts in the money, but she orders the sour drink. And there's a whole thing going on there, but the more important part is that wait, am I skipping a whole scene at the school?
No.
Okay. The Vespa woman shows up and just like literally is blasting down the street, jumps off and hits him in the head with a guitar and kills him.
Nope, he runs into him first, or she runs into him first.
Yeah, she
then
doesn't
he
kill
dies.
him.
and then resuscitates him, and then
She
hits
just
him with
says
the
she killed him.
guitar.
Gives him mouth to mouth. And then he's
Yes.
up, and then she hits him with a guitar. Right. Just, And where does that scene end?
Hold on. Consulting notes.
Because
Wakes up.
they have that weird cutaway to like the behind the scenes.
Yeah. So, because they did the slow motion, which
Yeah, like the
I
Matrix
love the cutaway
spin.
of this aesthetic of the director's commentary, the cast commentary, stating that she individually made time slow to make all that happen, while everyone else was just holding their breath. And then on top of that, she hits him like over the head. He gets a bruise. I believe an ambulance is coming. I didn't write this detail down. But essentially, after she sees the bruise, she takes off because she's a little disappointed that she didn't get the result she was hoping for.
I think the cops are chasing her. Because there's also the thing where specifically Naota doesn't want to go to the hospital at first.
To be fair, it was sirens, so it may very well have been cops.
True. But yeah, this is basically our introduction to Haruko Haruhara, which is, I guess, fun to say. And she is the second of our manic pixie dream girls. Like, come on, show.
Even of all the characters that are girls, I think, or my point of view, she's probably the cutest.
Is it the pink hair?
It's the eyes.
Yeah.
Manic and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every I have a type.
Mm-hmm. She's got a Vespa. If you're not going to go with the film camera, you're going to have like the film the film Vespa, the
I
Vespa scooter.
I would appreciate not being
And her
called
guitar.
that anymore on the podcast.
Listen, I'm just calling out like every friend I had in high school, and if you're collateral damage, I apologize.
No, it's just making me really reevaluate some life choices.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's just this. She just comes in, hits him, and then leaves, and that's pretty much the scene. Then
there was the minor detail, which I think is important, and I'm going to say later beyond the episodes we watch of the Momimi handing Nauta the drink.
Mhm.
And I know Joe and Nick will absolutely get the subtle, and I appreciate it not being overly stated, trope of anime of a girl or a person of the opposite gender drinking from or eating from a thing and handing it to a main character, and then the reaction of the indirect kiss.
Yeah, we can go ahead and put this on the vocab list. It's the indirect kiss.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing where typically in romance anime or comedy and gag anime, this will happen to get a rise out of a character, because culturally there is a little more of a taboo, from my understanding, than there is in stateside.
Okay.
Or it's not a thing. Like, I knew a lot of like people in high school who would do this sort of thing very casually, and it's just like it's something that besties do. But yeah, this is more of like a. It's like, oh, we might as well be married if we're doing that. Like, it's a very like.
Yeah.
For everything that we will see in shows that we are not going to be watching this time around, there's weird, like, publicly extremely puritanical stuff going on culturally in Japan.
Yeah, for every time, I'll be honest, for every time I see something very regressive here, I'll see something in a show or something from another culture, and I'll say, I'm surprised it's not that way here, but thank God it's not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we go to the school where all of the friends are like sharing rumors of the Vespa woman who comes over, and there's a wordplay about how Vespa means wasp, but Vespa is the brand of the bike. That's a joke that doesn't play in translation.
Did she sting you?
Yeah, so then they're working with like stinging, and basically like because like Nauta isn't, basically what they're saying is Nauta isn't the first one that she's hit going around town. Like she has just been doing this as a spree. It's a lot like
my god, it's the Puma Man.
I was about to say it's the opening to Puma Man is what's going on with her.
I'm so happy about that.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
I love the idea that she's just been spending her whole day randomly driving by people, assaulting them with her Vespa and guitar, and then just driving off into the sunset.
I'm sorry, I keep giggling because I think a little bit further in the scene, just hearing, because isn't it? I figure out Nota has the mark. It's pervert.
Yes. Ichi.
Yeah, so like which is like this is one of those like definitely one of those places where it's all like symbolic, because like the mark that she left is the one on his head from where she hit him, but the one that they're all calling him out for is the hickey that Mamimi left on his neck. So like there's already this rumor that it's just like, yeah, no, she leaves a mark on you if you've been like sexually active. Like if you have cootie, she comes and hits you with her guitar. Like, all right. But yeah, so like they're sort of like going like, oh, she found you, didn't you? And they're all making fun of him. And
it is middle school.
It is middle school. Let's see here. And that's pretty much that scene. Oh, so then we get, so there's a thing about the show where most of the time it is this like 6 parallel stories, nothing but puns and references, breakneck pace thing. But anytime like Naota is on his own, it actually like slows down and he has a voiceover, and it is when the show is like most parsable. And we have a weird moment of that, I think, while he's like walking home, because he says this is when he's talking about like, no, this is ordinary. Everything in this town that happens is ordinary. Even that big
Ugly looking building.
Yeah, the clothing iron shaped building up on the mountain that just came in, which later
Steam iron.
Yeah.
Releases steam.
That later we will learn has no doors. Yeah, even that's ordinary. But he says this weird thing about like the being picked on like that. This is not a punishment. This is ordinary. It's not like when I go hang out with Mamimi.
It's straight up Linus from Peanuts. Like just a normal kid, and then suddenly gets this super serious, deep adult conversation, and then back to normal.
Yeah. He's very like Holden Caulfield, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what I keep thinking of, this idea of just like again, the kind of thing that resonated with like a lot of people transitioning from middle school to high school, and they're taking one step up in the maturity of their literature or whatever. But like, yeah, this idea of just like everyone around me is stupid. And you know, everything around here is dumb and I have to put up with it. Like it is, he's one of those characters, and this is where he kind of just tells us and lets us know that he's that character.
I think we're getting ready to get to the dinner.
Okay.
Where we go back to this house.
Yeah, now to hold on, let me consult my notes because we were essentially leave school, blah blah blah. Yeah. So yeah, essentially he goes home, and
Find
he
a
notices,
new
like,
housekeeper.
Yeah, he also notices he has like the protrusion out of his hand that he can push back in.
Yeah. So he's got this weird horn. He's had a day. He takes a nap. When he wakes up from the nap to go to dinner, we get just the wildest manga style sequence that is the quickest pace thing in.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
That explains what Fooly Cooly is, but not really.
Yeah, like
Does
this
a lot of nothing.
whole section is basically based on the very Japanese premise of word plays and sound alikes and stuff. It does not work that well in English, but like most of like Haruka's like replies to things are like she's like mishearing words as other words, and it's like leading it down a weird continuity of the conversation.
Like they did their damnedest to localize those word plays.
Yeah.
But it's also the kind of thing where like, if you're not necessarily expecting it, and like they don't give anything the chance to rest, so it's just like, okay, no, we're already moving on. What was that? Did anybody get the license plate of that Vespa? You know.
All I gathered is their family is very progressive when it comes to the dating styles of every family member.
Yeah. The adult man and so he lives with his grandpa and his dad.
Yeah.
And they're basically just horny old dudes.
Yes. Okay. So all right. What is the plain text version of what happens here? So Haruka is there, and Naota's dad explains, hey, she's gonna be our live-in maid because she's making it up to me because earlier today she hit me with her Vespa. So she was just still doing her thing. And then I think she probably wanted to come because I think we did skip over a spot where like she follows him home from school and is like checking in on him, like something's up with that bruise, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So like she already had like is sniffing out that Naota's the special protagonist. And then they're trying to be like, oh, you know, now you're living in under the same roof as a girl. Please don't get all naughty. And Haruka's like, oh, but he's already naughty with his older brother's ex-girlfriend. And the dad is just reading the worst. Like, oh, my son is so sexually active. I'm disappointed, but also maybe proud. I don't know. And
then in the style of manga.
Yeah, and then the grandfather is just there Haruko's the one who asks, what is Fooly Cooly? And the father is explaining it. And I forget where this explanation comes from, but I remember it being Fooly Cooly is the onomatopoeia of kneading dough,
Yeah.
which also makes sense because I don't know if it's ever explicitly stated, but Naota's family runs a bakery. So that is a very weird, like, close reference for them to be making. But
I think they
it's
kind of explained in episode 2.
okay. But like it's kneading dough, but it's also just, playing with them titties. So it's just like, okay, so Fooly Cooly is basically hanky panky is like the slangest translation I can think of. And yeah, and then the dad is just going off on his own tangent about like, oh, you're going after your older brother's girlfriend, but now you have Haruko. Oh, she gave you mouth to mouth. That must be kissing and making out. And now it's just had enough of everyone around him making assumptions and like overblowing things happening to him until he just leaves. That scene ends when he just runs out on dinner.
It's a lot.
It's a lot and it's so fast. And when I think about this show being like hard to parse, that is the scene I think of because it's just like, yeah. So, and this is the thing that comes up. I think I've talked about this on a previous podcast, but like there are some anime. I think we talked about this during Full Metal Alchemist, but like there are some anime based on manga where when in an anime you have to bake in the timing of stuff, but in manga you read at your own pace, so you can sort of self-pace that. And I swear this show has that same sort of feeling of like, oh, if this was a manga, you would be reading this at your own pace, and I bet all of this plays way clearer. But it's not. This was not a manga first. This is just what this is.
They did put out a manga like concurrently with it, but it changed / focused on different aspects of the story. Apparently, I've never actually read the manga.
Yeah, and I think it was like what I looked up said the manga was an adaptation of the show, even if it was concurrent.
Ooh, a book based on a show.
Yeah.
There were also just novels, just straight novels.
But yeah, so Naoto runs off to his room, and then we get this scene between Naoto and Haruko where basically he's explaining like, my brother's off in America and you can't sleep in that bunk because that's his, and like stay away from me anyway. I'm not interested in you. And like they're kind of having a quiet moment because she's also starting to grill him on, hey, so what's up with that bruise? You haven't told me yet. I also don't remember where that scene ends. Holy cow, there's just so much.
Also, a lot of scenes just kind of end.
Yeah, they kind of end and bleed into each other rather flawlessly. So let's see.
Doesn't Momimi come over?
No, he actually goes out.
Oh, okay.
He goes downstairs, and his dad's downstairs making his zines. Man, that's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
And then his dad says, "Yeah, Mamimi was by," so he goes looking for Mamimi, who has the cigarette that sums up my life. Again, I hate being called out by media that I'm watching for this, but hold on, I have it here in my notes because it hurt. Let me find it. Okay, never knows best.
And it's written on a cigarette. Ooh.
As she's smoking it, I'm like, huh, like that's not loaded right there.
I'm pretty sure I know somebody from high school who has this tattooed on their arm.
Yeah, actually, that's probably my next tattoo.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, that'll be 2. But yeah, okay, so yeah, because right now Naoto leaves the conversation with Haruko because she's grilling him, and he's just like, I ain't putting up with this. Fine, I'll leave my room. Runs into his dad, and something like Mamimi came over to buy bread because her family might be poor. The day old
stale bread. Yeah, the hard bread.
Yeah.
And then Naoto freaks out and runs out after her, and they meet up on the bridge. and she does indeed have a bag full of day-old bread, and she's like, I don't like it, it's day old. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But I think this
I mean,
is...
I get it.
So, like, I'm trying to figure out why, like, Naota knew that she was upset, and I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure over what. Does anybody have a take here?
So I don't think they de facto say why. I don't recall it because believe me, I had to like pause, rewind a couple times.
Mhm.
My intuition here says it's not that she's upset now. Again, circling back to, she is a girl who is not having a good time. I think, like I said, the departure of Naota's brother, I think, has wrecked shop on her emotional being
Mhm.
and has affected her worldview. And part of me wants to say, yeah, I can believe this because I've known people like that. The other part of me wants to say, because anime. But somewhere in between there, I can believe this at that age because they state, and I think it's the next episode, that she is 17 and he is 12.
Yeah. Yeah. God.
Which really makes that very first opening scene really uncomfortable.
It's real bad. It's real bad on her part.
Even he could have been like 8th grade.
Mhm.
That's still weird because she's probably junior, senior.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and to the credit of the series creator and everyone behind the show, he was not into it. Because I can't tell you how many gag and romance anime, oh, this is perfectly fine and we're playing this as acceptable. No.
Yeah, actually, I have some big thoughts about the secret actual theming of the show being consent. That we can talk about that after the 3rd episode, because episode 3 has a lot of this going on too.
Yeah, and to that point, or rather, circling back to the point where we're at, I think that she is just kind of having a deep depression day.
Mm.
Because again, we don't really get a behind the scenes look at what really her home life is.
Right.
But I'm getting the impression it's not very supportive. It's not very good, and we throughout these 3 episodes we learn she gets bullied
Mhm.
by her classmates. She's a little different. The person in probably one support and her personal literal hero has left,
Mhm.
who also was like the object of her affection. I think she is now dealing personally with moderate, if not severe, depression.
Oh, absolutely.
And thus, that's why this is the bad day. She might be functional most days, but I think this is the bad day. And I think most of her reactions are her way of, her flirtations and such are her way of trying to deal with it.
Yeah, because earlier there's a thing where she's like, I have to be handsy, otherwise I'll overflow. And I'm thinking that might be a thing for depression or just overwhelming emotions in whatever vector. But like, yeah, I the day old bread has to be like a symbol for the fact that like she's it's the like runner up want, right? Like she doesn't actually want Naota, she wants the older brother, but like she's trying to cope with it by projecting onto him, and like she kind of knows that and he definitely knows that, but like she has no idea
it's
what else
just
to do.
transference. I
Yeah.
think the physicality is just her like just needing physicality, and like
Yeah.
that's kind of the only place she can get it
Oh,
from.
I like honestly, like I think what she's going through and like looking at her overall as a character, I think she's a really well written kind of character.
Oh yes.
The biggest confusion I have is like, what makes Naota freak out and run after her? Does he like realize just from her coming over and dropping off photos that she is having a terrible day and needs support right now? Like,
Well, because earlier she called him to come see the photos, and he was like, "No, fuck off."
yeah.
I think, again, this might be me reading into it. This might be me making a lot of sense. I think part of him in that position, again, probably drawing from way too much other media and other experiences in life, I think part of him resents, because I'm sure he realizes he is the fill-in for his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And while he doesn't mind being his brother's successor, he resents that the only way he will have this any kind of real kind of relationship with her is with her kind of holding on to the past or desperately clawing at it to get it back. And so he treats her in a manner that allows him, unfortunately, to be kind of a prick at times, because no, I don't want to see your stupid photos. But at the same time, he realizes I should have been more supportive. I should have been a good friend. I don't, and he's 12. I don't think someone in that position at that age knows how to handle and navigate that kind of situation at all. Never, even less to say well. So I think that's kind of what we're dealing with, is like a mixed emotion for him. He doesn't know how to just be a friend.
Yeah, I mean they're both missing his brother, and they're the
Yeah.
only two that like get it. So of course they're gonna kind of cling to each other.
Yeah. Like, and also he totally resents being the successor to his brother, like not just as a member of a relationship, but like just in general, because that's the entire thing of like he is hanging on to his brother's bat. And I don't think I think it doesn't happen till starting in episode 4, but like the catchphrase of the show is "you gotta swing the bat" as like an allegory for just like something. I'll need to watch the last 3 episodes a few more times before I can have a guess. But like, yeah, there's definitely this thing about like right now this show is like the his position in life is living in other people's shadows, whether it's, you know, largely his brother, but just like everyone doing stuff around him, like just like I said, I think it's a show about him being caught up in other people's stuff, problems without his consent, and like, yeah, that makes him act like a selfish prick. And you would think like, well, of course he's like a selfish kind of prick. He's 12 years old. Like that makes sense. But like, I don't know. When you watch every episode and see what he actually has to put up with, I think that's fair. Like, I think him being a selfish prick is like kind of like him vying for, you know, self-agency in a really justified way.
And I would agree with that. Like I said, I know I call him a prick. I don't think it's necessarily his fault that it's there, because looking at his emotional support base, I don't think he has a healthy adult to help him manage, as we'll see in these episodes. I don't think he has a healthy adult to help him manage these emotions and figure this out. I love my parents both, but I was, as much of an introvert as I've become in my older years, as a child, I was very extroverted. I was very talkative, outgoing, just wanted to be part of everything. My parents were very logical. I was very emotional. They weren't really well equipped to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was absolutely a lot of headbutting, and definitely growing older in those late, I would say mid teens through mid 20s, those learning, even I would say even still to this day, I'm seeing things of myself that definitely need to be improved. Of like, maybe I didn't learn the best way to do this or handle this because of those differences. And that's not a fault in the sense of my folks' case. They were who they were. In Naota's case, though, it's just like the galaxy, the universe set him up. It's like, this is your family. Good luck.
Yeah, like it's like I made the Holden Caulfield comparison before, but this show is the wildest case where it feels like a kid's adventure movie, because the 12-year-old is actually the most like emotionally balanced and like rational of everyone in the series, and everyone older than him. And like, that's a kids movie, is when the kids can solve the problem that the adults don't even see. Like, but that's what this show is doing in a weird way. But like, more stuff that we'll talk about later. Anyway, forget all of that. Now the robot fight starts. The best part of this show. Because so Mimi's having her issues, and she's like, I'm about to overflow. And instead of dealing with that, the horn on Nauta's head finally springs forth to fruition, and out pops 2 robots that are currently having like an all-out brawl with each other. What y'all think of this?
Surprise!
Yeah.
Surprise, it's a robot show.
Okay, so obligatory. So he's horny. There, I said it. Done. It's out.
Mhm.
Even though for 2 episodes he has horns. I again, this is where I'm starting to think like I'm missing something, or I know there's something here in front of me and I can't get it. Like I'm not seeing the direct correlation, and this is where I'm feeling stupid because this is normally where I would say, I get the symbolism, and I think I get it, but I don't think I get it enough to be sure. I really think what we're dealing with here is like a symbolism of like his internal spirit to a degree. I know what the story says he is, what the robot is.
Yeah, like it. This is a story thread that, like, especially in your first watch through, it comes out of nowhere, and it's like, wait, what the
Yeah.
fuck is this? And
Yeah.
going back and watching after you know kind of what it is gives a little more context.
It does explain.
Yes.
It explains it.
So allow me to answer this in a way I think that might be helpful and not at all. It gives you a textual, an in-universe explanation of what this
Of
is.
what is going on? Yeah.
Of what is actually happening. But the symbolism is not clearly spelled out, and I think the symbolism can be read a couple of ways, and that's also where I'm starting to stumble.
So, all right, here's my hot take. I think this is one of the few pieces that isn't symbolic. I think this is the
Don't
like
do that to me.
I think this
You
is
think
one
it's just a robot fight?
I think that this is one of the like exaggerations for the sake of it's a fantasy show like it is not necessarily symbolic, but it is showing the like how extreme but not symbolic the sudden introduction of robots and space stuff is the comedic exaggeration about the stuff going on in Nauta's life. Because like he's got this, his older brother's ex-girlfriend who is hanging over him all the time and giving him problems. He's got this weird Vespa girl who's moved into his house and is giving him problems. He's got friends at school that are always picking on him, giving him problems. And like, this is just another thing on the pile. Oh, great. Now there are robots in my life and giving me problems. Like, I think this is like, I don't think it worked. Like you can find symbolism there, of course, but I think it actually reads best as like, no, this is actually just a thing that's happening because it works extremely well as just like another echo of the central theme, which is that like Nauta is the whipping boy for everyone else dealing with their own problems. And
Nick,
this
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll wait.
The space pirate stuff is just another problem that Nauta is collateral damage for. I think that is the way that it best works and fits.
Okay. Nick, I want you to know I think you're right, and I think I've just fallen for a bait, because I believe there's a lot of bait in this series for people, not pointing fingers at myself, that like to watch things and find the meaning or the subtext.
Sure.
Or as we will come to as the second episode especially starts to hit on it, people that may really, and I do not consider myself one of those, I will not be one of those, I understand all the meanings of Ava, but definitely the people that are like, I know all the meanings and the symbolism of this, and I can tell you everything and why you're wrong. I feel like you might be right, and this might be the bait for one of those, because when you say that and I analyze it from that angle, I'm like, oh my god, this is bait.
No, like I said, this is what I'm coming to on like my 12th watch through of just like, oh no, it's not symbolism. It's not about his spirit. It is about this is some other shit he's got to deal with. Like looking at it as like another parallel theme, I think is the strongest fit it has to any symbolic connection you could draw.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm so mad I got baited.
Yeah, so Bob,
what robots in Fooly Cooly?
So his dad is a gigantic otaku, and he does specifically reference Gundam stuff during that manga scene.
Oh yeah, he does.
Because he's like talking about like whenever the dad is on screen, there are references to like specific anime culture and like fandom and industry culture, and it's you want to talk about like this is a show for weebs and by weebs, so of course we had to talk about it. But yeah, I don't know, Bob. How did you react to suddenly this is a robot show?
Thankfully we've seen one or two. Not what I was expecting to come out the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Different. I
Did
don't
you-
know. I didn't see it coming. I guess demons, maybe, or
Okay. I was
don't
gonna say,
know.
where did you think that? Because like they're earlier, like Naota's like, all right, Haruko, tell me who you are, really, and she's like,
It's-
I'm
yeah,
an
she's
alien.
like, I'm an alien. So it's either going to be aliens or demons. It's one of those. I don't know if they're trying to play it as fantasy or sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't know if Haruko is like she said an alien, and even with these 3 episodes, I still don't know.
You know, I gotta say, I love her delivery of that line too. It's like, oh, I'm an alien. It's so matter of factly, but again, not to point a finger at myself, but there are those people out there that kind of like to mess with kids a little bit when it's like, it's like you deal with that little kid that asks all the questions, you kind of want them to leave you alone for a little bit. So you give them like that weird answer that kind of makes them stop dead in their tracks.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of want, I'm sure that wasn't the intent, but I kind of wonder if that's what she was doing.
I
A little
mean-
Oh,
bit.
because she liked to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's absolutely not the case, but there's a part of me that's like, she threw that at him, if only to see how he reacted to it.
Mm.
It's like, how do you accept this information, regardless if it's true or not?
I think she's absolutely the kind who would mess with him by telling him the unbelievable, like, gospel truth about the
Yeah.
situation. Like,
And that's what I love about her of this character. God, I have a type.
Mhm.
Is she's like, oh no, I'm going to say the thing, regardless if it's true or not. I just want to see how you react to it, and that in of itself seems to almost bring her joy or satisfaction in life.
but then also like as an audience on a first watch, like
Mm.
it doesn't it also feel more like that manic pixie dream girl thing? It's just like the kind of girl who would be like, oh, you know, I was in a car accident and I died and now I'm just a ghost of myself. And it's just like, no, you had head trauma and now you suffer from depression because of it. But like, all right, go off.
Bob, I don't mean to throw another vocabulary word in here, but is this possibly playing off the Chinibio trope?
The what?
The what?
Okay, Chinibio.
What?
Oh God, do I know something you don't know? Oh man, I feel great now. I feel redeemed.
He said the chibi robot.
Okay,
trope.
so Chinibio is like, as I
Is-
understand it, is a phase. It's that like life you are awkward phase when you're growing up, and it's often highlighted as in anime children, typically school aged, going through like wearing the eye patch over their eye, and I have a dark curse behind this eye patch trapped in my eye,
Oh,
essentially
teenage-
acting out their fantasies in real life.
Teenage angst.
Yes.
Being a teenager. Yeah.
And even then, it's not necessarily a teenager, but like going into that transition of becoming a teenager, and then eventually they grow out of it. Theoretically,
That-
looks at the world.
That gap year between becoming cringe and realizing you are cringe.
Yeah, and as you develop, yeah, it's like either you embrace the cringe or you die being the cringiest.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's and part of me wonders if that's kind of playing off of that trope, because typically it's the younger child that does that in anime. Whereas now we have the older adult aged appearing person, because I don't think Haruko has an age that's ever disclosed.
20.
Huh?
20 or possibly old, probably older.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like, or at one point somebody says 19. I think she says 19.
Yeah,
yeah.
she says 19.
okay,
But
she doesn't say 19,
what's her
I'm just-
face is like, oh, she's definitely older than that.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. In her face, you can kind of see where she's animated. Like I would assume she's probably in her early to mid 20s at the latest, physically appearing anyway.
Yeah. I think, you know, even if you want to look at it from like the like narrative harem angle, she's
Mm,
like generically college aged because she is the kind of girlfriend that her brother might actually have now.
she's Ryoko. She's Ryoko from Tenchi.
She's very much a Ryoko, yeah.
Oh my god, I have such a damn. I'm going
Uh-huh.
home. I'm
Yep.
taking my stuff and I'm going home. Goodbye.
No, the ball. Right. So this whole robot fight plays out, and IMO this show does some of the best like dynamically drawn robot fights put
the
on
kinetic
paper.
energy.
Yeah, at this point, it's a TV-headed robot versus a giant robot hand with an eyeball
Yeah.
in its palm.
Just the hand, yeah.
Yeah.
What did the five fingers say to the TV? Power off.
And our TV-headed friend ends up winning. Meanwhile, Naota's like shirt is caught on him the whole time. So like, as this dude
Dragged
is,
around, yeah.
yeah, he's literally getting dragged around through all these like jump kicks and parries and whatever. And then once the hand is defeated, Haruko comes flying in, revs up her guitar because it is a pull start 2-cylinder guitar, and slams the TV robot in the head, draining it of color and killing the best character who had been in this show yet. And that ends the fight scene. I guess Mamimi's fine now. Don't worry about that. And then basically the episode ends with like the denouement of they brought the robot back to the house, and now it is like learning how to bake bread and do chores around the house. And it's like, yep, this is how this is where things are at right now. Haruko and this TV robot here, and my life is still, it is ordinary for my life to be this
normal
weird.
in this town.
So yeah, that's finally episode 1.
You know, life is so boring in my normal life, in this normal town.
Nothing ever happens.
Yeah, I also need to impart that I love the guitar. Now, hear me out.
Okay, yep. You
she
have a
used the
type.
ripcord. No. We're not talking about the type. We're talking about the guitar.
Specifically, it is a Midnight Blue left-handed Rickenbacker bass guitar model 4001.
I was gonna ask you because every otaku nerd loves to memorize that shit.
Right.
That's
you say
no
that.
way.
Here I am, not memorizing that.
Mhm.
Okay, so here, go with me on this journey.
Yeah.
In my head, there's a name for that weapon, other than the actual type of guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It has a ripcord. It is it's similar to, like, say, a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, the slang term for a guitar is an axe. Is this not a chainsaw axe?
No, because
Wouldn't.
it doesn't have the actual chainsaw part.
Very well.
If the handle like had a chainsaw, then
Or
maybe.
definitely some motorized axe. Is this from Warhammer?
I don't know. I'm not a Warhammer person.
Someone got in a rubber band because I feel like something being stretched.
I just love this weapon. That's all it is. I love the.
It's just a guitar
It's a guitar with a ripcord.
that survives smashing things several times. I don't know if she owns a
It's
factory or
glorious.
what.
It is glorious. That's all I'm getting at. Is glorious.
Maybe it's like the TARDIS. You remember how the reason the TARDIS is a police box is because it's actually like active camo that got damaged and is now stuck on?
Yes, I would know that, actually.
Maybe maybe it's actually like her super secret space weapon, and it's only camouflage as a guitar, but the camouflage is broken from being used as a weapon, and now it's stuck permanently looking like a guitar.
Yes, thank you, because that's the other part. Of it. I'm trying to figure out the logic behind this. You know, the logic in this crazy show.
I think it's
But
just
I also
a
need there to
guitar.
be something for me to grab onto.
I think it's just a guitar, but it is a magic space guitar.
I love it. I mean, that's really all I need in my life is that.
Also, if anyone's curious, your Vespa is a Sunglow Piaggio Vespa SS180.
To that point, I love the end credits that the Vespa, after getting kicked and beaten up on by a Haruka, just goes on its own adventure.
Live action photo adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it just makes my day.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on episode 1 before we start episode 2?
I do not have any personally that we didn't discuss.
I won't lie, rewatching this, I felt just as confused as I did back in 2004, 2003, whenever this first showed up on Toonami.
Yeah, 2003.
Thank you.
Okay. Season 1, episode 2 is called Firestarter. And it basically opens up on an X-ray of Naota's head where he has no brain syndrome. Where his brain should be, there is just a void. How many of us can relate?
All the time.
I want to know how they got my medical files.
We see her. Right, because there was the episode. We skipped over the part in the last episode where she went and Naota goes to the hospital and then she breaks in and replaces the nurse.
Part, yeah.
It's a secret nurse. That's not a nurse.
And she has kept the stolen nurse outfit and is using it now to analyze these X-rays.
Which were taken by the robot.
We get the info that this robot seems to have been built at the factory up on a hill, shaped like a clothes iron. The cat is her boss, I guess.
Or somehow point of communication with her boss.
Yep.
That's what we'll say.
And this has all been the cold open, and then this show doesn't have like an opening theme.
It has a different song every episode.
Really?
That's several different songs each episode, but
yeah.
Huh. Maybe I don't know. I just remember the cold open to the title card on Almost Silence. But yeah, then we have basically his dad is doing more with his zines. The robot is doing chores. Naota is like, hey, you can't be letting everybody know that we have a robot doing our house chores because that's going to be weird. Hey, Dad, stop being so cringe. And then she's fixed. God, this, even my notes are manic.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Get mine out. Okay, so we started the episode. Mamimi was playing a game on her phone. We later learn is Firestarter.
Right, the name of the episode.
Where the goal is, as later revealed, to burn down buildings without burning the whole city down, because otherwise you, the character, under the power of Lord Conti, name will be relevant later, you've been given these superpowers to do so, to take revenge on the world around you. Gee, I wonder if Momimi's having some hard times in her life. This is the episode where we learn too that she was getting bullied, is getting bullied by her fellow classmates. And we also learned that the kids that Naota hangs out with think that he is dating Momimi.
Yeah.
Then we got the X-rays.
Right. So
this is where we. Oh, go ahead.
We get another scene of Mamimi and Naota under the bridge, which is just like
it's her delinquent hangout spot.
Yeah, that is their hangout. But specifically, he is bringing her sandals because hers got washed down river for some reason while she's sitting there
playing a game.
She's playing the game with her feet in the water. And she found a new kitten who she is now calling the Kitten Tycoon, which she was calling Naota last episode. So, like, does that count as character growth? Because now she is transferring onto a different entity?
Stop me if I'm mistaken, but I think she still refers to him as Tycoon too.
She does. Okay. I forget if they ever say the brother's name, but wouldn't Tycoon...
That's the brother's... It's her nickname for the brother.
Yeah, so like there's always like he hates that. It's like, I'm not my brother. Please stop.
Yeah.
And this is just more of that. Let's see here. And then we see her.
So I've got a kind of a blow by blow here. So after there was what was it? There was the X-rays. We learned about Kamon, which I want to circle back to him later. Naota tells. And this is part of the reason I want to circle back. At one point, it's specifically stated, because Naota, when chewing out his father for having the robot work, I guess Haruko didn't know what his dad was doing, making zines. So he explains that his father wrote a book That in my notes dealt with and revealed the deep mysteries of Evangelion.
Yeah, he's such an otaku.
Yeah, he is hard. Then there was the stray she found. At this point, Haruko is on her own, as she does, minding her own business, crashing into medical mechanica, i.e., the steam iron.
Right.
Uh, and in doing so, that's when she meets two security guards. Eventually finds his way there. And during the discussion after he arrives, she mentions to the guards, "Is this really a building? Because there's no doors or no other ways in or out."
Yeah, this is clearly not a place where people are meant to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it? Yeah. She has like, "Is this a job?" Because XYZ. Um. Let's see.
But yeah, he picks up Haruko and brings her
Oh,
home, and Mamimi's come home with them too?
Momimi is out actually by the bridge by herself.
Yes.
And at the beginning of the episode, we have like a narrative exposition by her where she says she saw a angel with black wings, etc. And while she's out here at the bridge, this is when she sees this weird black circle in the grass, kind of flitting about, and then it stands up, and it's the robot with a halo that is like taped to its head, anchored
Yeah.
to its head, and has the little black wings on its back. And she just kind of follows him and watches as he learns to fly. And she thinks
Yeah.
he's a god and calls him Lord Conti, what like in the video game Firestarter.
Well, yeah, because he is at this burned down. Later we'll learn it was a school. He's at this burned down school looking for something. Like he is digging through debris and like finds
Yeah,
a piece of something.
Isn't he finding pieces of himself?
It might
I
be
don't think
pieces
they
of
ever show.
himself.
They do.
Having watched all 6, I don't think they ever actually tell you what he built.
They do.
They
We
do?
saw it. We see it for a brief second in one of these episodes.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I've completely blanked on it.
He might be trying to rebuild the part of his head that Haruko broke, but
Yeah.
I cannot guarantee that, but that seems like what it is.
He's trying to put his head back together.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know why he is dressed like an angel and then leaps off the roof doing some real Christian symbology poses and then just starts flying. I don't know why he does that. I think he's just hanging out with cool birds.
I mean, birds is cool.
Birds is cool. But yeah, so she's just like, oh, he's a god. He's the god Conti, the god of like flames and protecting me, which I'm surprised she didn't call Naoto's brother Conti at that rate. Uh-huh.
That's a loaded gun.
Unintended?
Sure.
Maybe. Oh yeah. Okay, but then now we have the scene at home where we're all just like hanging out and we get all the ages at the bottom of the screen because it's doing another anime specific reference or like Japanese media specific reference.
Can we also learn in this scene that who was that? Either it was Momimi or no, it was Haruko. I'm sorry, I didn't put him in. Haruko saw the robot at a 7-Eleven specifically reading a Hustler.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which then later in the scene, Grandpa sticks his head out the window. Is like, "Did you get my magazine? That's not the right one."
He divine levitates down with dinner, like takeout dinner, and then goes over to the grandpa's room and delivers the Hustler, which was not the one he wanted. He wanted the one with the Anna Nicole centerfold.
Uh-huh.
Like, wow, we're really hard avoiding using the copyrighted name of Playboy.
Yup. But yeah, like not only are they not keeping the robot inside the house in a secret, they're just sending him out in the world to do errands. Like, okay, fine. This is also the scene where, because we get the subtitles, we get specifically Naota is 12, Mamimi is 17, Haruko is the boss cat is 12 years old, and the new adopted stray kitten is about 4 months.
Yeah.
Everyone's ages. Love it.
I love how fat boss cat is.
Love to hate that age gap. Mamimi, get your act together.
Like I said, everyone there is having a bad time.
If really.
Shared, I don't know if I want to use trauma, but shared, I don't know, collective depression.
Grief.
Yes, yeah, that might be a better word. Grief.
Boy, all right. What happens next? Because then my notes just jump to his realization moment about Mamimi.
Um,
That doesn't
uh,
happen right now, does it?
well, after this, it's we get a scene with the kids telling or passing rumors that Momimi is being bullied by the others of her age, and then it
Watching
cuts.
her knee deep in the river again for reason?
Yeah,
They threw her bag in the river.
I was gonna say
Right.
I don't think it was like specifically said, but yeah, I think her bag was in the river and her shoe, one of her sandals, was starting to float down, and they caught sight of it, and that's what started that conversation. Then we cut to Haruko, as I put it, Haruko speaking to her mysterious cat-shaped handler,
Mm-hmm.
and then we learn about the fire at the school, the former elementary school that was suspected arson, but no one ever proved it. And Naota's brother having saved Momimi from said fire,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first time they met, and that's when Momimi said, "This one for the rest of my life."
Imprinted like a baby duck.
Yeah. Then Naota goes searching for Mamimi and finds her and the robot at the school, where the robot is scared that Naota sees him because he's a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we start getting all these little flashes of scenes, cuts backs between this and the first episode of, her with the cigarette, or images of her with a lighter, etc., and discussing the game, as I mentioned earlier, kind of breaking it down of how it
Right.
works.
This is okay. So I
This
had
is
to
where we
watch this
learn she might
scene.
be an arsonist.
I had to watch this scene like 3 times because what is happening in this scene is like Naota is walking Mamimi home after having to deliver her more shoes on the day that another arsonist happened, and like he was already starting to put the pieces together, but we get this montage with a voiceover,
Yeah.
but it is representing him putting the pieces together and realizing that Mamimi is the arsonist, because there's the one level of he is explaining the nature of the game, which is, everything you said before about like, yeah, you have to burn it down, do whatever. The city of Endsville,
Yeah.
the city of devils,
Something like that, yeah.
and about Lord Conti, and puts together like, oh, she's been calling him Lord Conti and whatever. The cigarette, the lighter, all of that, the school burning down, we hear hints about that. But then if like there's a lot of voices underneath this explanation of the game, most of them are stuff we've heard earlier in the episode about like, oh, I heard she was getting bullied. Oh, I heard that there was arson. They never proved how the school burned down. But
Weird,
and again, I've only learned this time. There is new information provided in that sub audio track. Because
What did I miss then?
there is very specifically Naota being interviewed by implied police, asking him specifically like, hey, it's that girl that you hang out with who did this, isn't it? And him denying it. So like he was basically, covering for Mamimi, because he might have not actually, known it at that point, but like that is a scene that we had not otherwise seen. And then at the very end of it, we are hearing for the first time, like a flashback to a scene where Naoto walks in on Haruko talking to Boss Cat, and we hear the Boss Cat speak to him in just like a human voice. And I forget what he says, but it's just like, oh,
I did not write it down, and I feel bad.
They make it very explicit here. They're like, no, that cat is talking and clearly knows like
The cat knows things.
the cat knows things and is some kind of professional. The cat is some kind of handler. Okay.
I love that the cat is doing things. I love animals in anime. I love cats in anime. I love when we have a Sailor Moon-esque alien cat just talking, having a role, doing things.
The only thing that's better is when your 2 pet cats are also co-pilots of your giant robot, and they fly in the little autonomous like sidekick pods. Shout outs to Cybuster.
Yeah, and it's such a fat cat too. I love the fat kitties. That makes me happy. This just made my day. I ate it up. But yeah, and then we get another robot fight.
Right. Because boy, where this it doesn't happen to me because like after that whole scene, Naota is like going up to the scene of the burned down school again, and this time Mamimi has like a whole like summoning circle sketched out, and is like lighters taped to her head, and she's doing like a whole ritual thing. The robot's also there, and she's about to like go up and lay a big old smooch and dedicate herself to this robot who she is calling the God of Flames. And then yes, Naota's next thing springs out of his head.
Yeah, the horns, because this episode we also discovered he had 2 horns instead of the 1 last time, and that pops out of him. And then Robot does the thing of fighting it, but
I think this is the rest of the robot
probably
whose hand came through last time.
I believe
I think
so. The
so,
design
yeah.
is similar. But they fight. The robot, Conti, as he's called for a while, decides, goes in, fights, kind of gets overwhelmed. The enemy robot almost eats Mamimi, but Naota saves her. And then Conti eats Naota and becomes red again.
He sucks that boy down like Popeye eating spinach.
And then also becomes a gun.
Well,
an artillery cannon.
Wait. Before that,
yeah, hold on.
In the shot where he is putting Naota into his innards, which have broken open into this giant maw
with like space inside,
eyeballs. Yeah,
not nothing eldritch there. You mean I skipped over that? No.
Slurps him up.
Vor.
Some fun Transformer stuff too, spinning around 15 times and.
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna say. You can't just skip over. Is like the best spin kick that's again ever been put into media. He
spin kick of all anime.
He does the one-handed block the giant monster, elbow into the stomach, 520 spin kick to kick this guy out of frame. It's the only reason anime is allowed to continue existing is because that shot is so good.
Yeah, I did read that in the Geneva Conventions.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he just eats, eventually then he becomes a mortar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he just transforms into some sort of artillery gun.
And fires away and defeats enemy robot. And
it's got brains.
Yeah.
I mean, every living thing has brains.
No, I know, but they don't normally, like, all of a sudden slurp out of the back and turn into, like, I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be on the rifle, like a counterbalance or, like, where the ammo goes or something.
I think they are, like, heat sinks. I think those are exposed for venting purposes, which I felt the need to vent my brain like that many times, especially at that age.
Say, wow. Yeah, like, woo. This show.
Yeah, I have additional commentary about that now, but it only applies to like the end of the series, so I guess we're gonna have to save that.
Yep.
Although it does end on kind of a joke with the way that Naoto leaves. Thank you, Naota. Leaves the robot.
Yeah. When I think something's crap, I complete. Have you ever been so relieved you just defecated a whole human being?
Man, Japanese love their poop humor.
They really
do.
Yeah,
that was a thing. I left that out of my notes, Bob. Thanks. I chose to forget that aspect.
But yeah, that's kind of just what happens, right? Like it's
Naota
just
also resolves to, as he puts it, stay with Mimi forever. Mamimi, excuse me, forever.
Yeah, so I guess his like realization in going after her in this episode was like, oh no, I've been mean to her like all the other bullies in her life.
Hmm.
She needs
I
somebody
haven't
to
been
help
any
her.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like yeah, she's still not like a like
She's still not the healthiest of people to be around.
Y'all need therapy now to find non-toxic people.
yeah, that's the thing. Like I think this show is pitching it as like, oh, Naota is having like, growing as a person and becoming
Hmm.
like this more upstanding young guy, but like it by sort of throwing himself headlong into a relationship that is clearly toxic for him, and like
Hmm.
that's where like again, there's something new on this watch. I'm just like, I don't think I like the moral that this show is trying to pitch. That is just
I
like,
don't think that's the moral that it's trying to pitch.
I almost wonder if it's now that we're talking about toxic relationships. I almost wonder if it's almost saying like even if you're surrounded by nothing but toxic and or otherwise broken persons, you yourself can't allow yourself to be dragged down. You have to find a way to overcome in a sense. But even then, to me, I'm like, if that's the case, that still feels kind of like,
yeah,
He's making a decision
yeah.
to help someone.
I guess I guess it could be like you need to make a choice. Are you going to go down the hole with everyone else, or are you going to try and keep your head above water?
And I think that's part of the coming of ageness of this story is that like his entire life he's being buffeted by all these people around him who are like projecting all this shit onto him, and
Yeah.
he's growing up physically to the sense that he's like trying to become sexually aware and stuff, but also he's coming out of his brother's shadow and choosing to like make his own decisions about things and be a little more proactive about it.
Hmm.
well, so a lot more of this comes up in episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So unless we have something else about this episode, let's just get right to it. Keep this train going.
Sounds good.
Go for it.
All right, episode 3. Are y'all ready to hear me pronounce this wrong?
Do it, because I'm sure can't say
Absolutely.
it.
The Marquis De Carabas.
I love that restaurant.
I'd love to order that when I'm at Taco Bell. That's not even all right. Anyway,
The combination Carabas Taco Bell.
So the Marquis is a character from the story Puss in Boots. My other
This episode.
introduction to the name was in Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. There's a character named the Marquis de Carabas.
So this episode now just makes at least the title makes a heck of a lot of sense now.
okay, so my first note in this is, wow, there is a shitload of things being conveyed in the cold open, but nothing about what the cold open actually is.
Mm-hmm. Both these statements are true.
Oh, right. It's the girl from Naota's class / group of friends, school chums. Nina Mori. And she is in the car with her father's secretary. And long story short, her father is the mayor who is having an affair with the secretary. Nina Mori knows about it and is kind of letting the secretary know in
She knows.
all but explicit, and even the secretary is like, all right, you're a smart girl. How about, like, they don't actually like make a deal, but they do have this just sort of like quiet understanding of just like, all right, everybody knows what's going on here and nobody's starting to challenge it. Okay. And then ending on about how Nina Mori's got the main part in the play that will be the sort of MacGuffin of driving this episode.
Mm-hmm. Can I say that dialogue in that opening? I was in love with it because I'm sure because I'll front load this now. I don't remember this episode watching it the first 2 times way back when. So this one kind of caught me a little off guard. I love the dialogue here. The saying it without saying it, all the read between the lines, like, oh, this is things I live for in any kind of media. I love those kind of conversations. This was so good, and the way the daughter is calling out the secretary on her shoes. You're a smart secretary. You brought a suit.
Yeah.
A new suit for today. Like, oh, we're going there. Okay. This was a treat for me because I didn't remember this. I'm like, ooh, new ride.
Yeah, like this is absolutely one of the moments in the show where I'm like frustrated because we look at, the manga scene from the first episode and we're just like, wow, this show feels like it's kind of a mess due to localization or being more reference than being substance or whatever, and like, oh, it's so incredibly hard to parse. And then every so often we get a scene like this where it's just like, no, this is just well written, well executed. This is like some high tier, just,
Mm-hmm.
visual media. And it's just like, why are you spending so much time doing this other nonsense and having these little moments that prove that you are like you have this much skill of execution for doing visual? It's just like, if for me it feels like twisting the knife at like how annoying and frustratingly paced the rest of the show is, because it's letting you know, no, that's on purpose, deal with it. And I'm just like, I respect it, but
Yeah.
get the hell out.
It's like, did you have to make that extra turn with a knife?
Yes.
With a smile. I will also say I love, especially seeing this episode essentially with fresh eyes. I love how it comes kind of full circle, as we will discuss as we go on with this episode, regarding the what we're told about her father, or about the school president's or class president's father, and some things she does later that we get revealed on.
But okay, after the title card, we're in school and we're talking about how everybody has cast votes on who's going to be in the school play, and somehow Naota was voted as like the sidekick to the lead, even though it's clear he never would have entered into taking on such a part.
Yeah, he is not happy about being in this role. Also, at
I
some
think
point early
he's
on,
the male lead, isn't he? Technically.
he is the feline lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
He
she's
is
playing the
Puss
Little
in
Prince.
Boots. I also love at some point very early on in this, because it's in my notes here, Haruko only responds to, of all the names that Naota levels at her, only responds to evil alien.
Yep, because she is just a real. She loves busting chops. Call her a pork butcher because she's busting chops. I need to shout out to what was her name again? Ninamori. It's her USSR hoodie.
Yes,
Yeah.
I actually wrote that down. I loved that. I'm like, oh, there's a statement in here somewhere.
I think it's just the Japanese thing of just having birds on shirts. Like,
Sure.
who cares? Like, they don't necessarily know what it is.
Honestly, I wish we had more of that here.
I think she's just a Zangief main. That's all.
I mean, kinda.
She does grab a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She appreciates power, and having it. Yeah, she tells us the audience that Naota's role is to play the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we get some, while all this is going on, if I remember correctly, this is kind of interspersed with then and now shots, because my notes kind of reflect that. We learn that his dad is back out making his zine, and I forget what it was.
Okay, so
Actually titled, excuse me there.
This is what's going on with that, is because they're passing around a zine in the classroom and they get caught looking at it. And then like the teacher pulls it up,
that's
and
a very prolonged overreactive reaction sequence,
implying it's something salacious.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
but we find out kind of what it is throughout the story, because the title of it, we find out that Naota's father is making this.
So that is the zine that he's been working on.
What I was trying to get is, I forget the title, but it very clearly implicates that he is the one that outed the affair publicly, or implying that he did.
Well, at least on the version that I watched, like none of the text on it or in it was translated, so we just like cut to the inside of this zine and then we hear Naota's voiceover sort of explaining what the whole situation with the scandal is.
Common says the name of it. And
Really?
and it's one of those like you read into it, yeah. Because I had to pause it and go back, like, wait, what was it? Because I thought he was writing about Ava. What's going on here?
Okay.
And so taking that with what we saw in the opening scene, like, and it may not even be that he is the one that did out it, but maybe he's the one like dispersing details, doing like legwork on this.
I think he did, because there is a reference to like, well, he is a journalist after all, so
Mhm.
like it sounds like he is revealing stuff from his own investigation.
It's called Come On Mabase, because Mabase is the town, and that sounds like Come On Mabase.
It's called Come On.
I'm gonna say
But yeah, I'm trying not to let my brain aneurysm show, Bob. Thank you. We also get at the same time a reference to Crystal Pepsi.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
would
that just kind of
say-
hit me out of nowhere.
that was one of those localization translation things, because the original script was a reference to like no longer made Japanese soda that like
Makes
definitely
sense.
wouldn't play with an American audience. They like, came up with the equivalent in Crystal Pepsi.
Then
so. They
mad
grabbed
props
Crystal
to the
Pepsi, not New Coke. I tell
mad
you.
props to the localization team for just hitting that one out of the park. Then for American audiences to grip.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot of what localization teams do. Is they like you translate it and then you
Right.
figure out like the equivalent
Yeah.
thing.
But as I'm sure most of us here have seen, sometimes localization not so great.
Yeah.
This one hit just the perfect mark from what I'm understanding.
Yeah. And so like the point of that, like that is a dig saying that like, yeah, it's kind of a shitty bakery. Right? Like that's kind of what that's saying. It's just like
Right, yeah, that's what it was. They were talking about the bakery.
Yeah, it's just like they still have this soda that's been discontinued for a decade in their case because like either nobody goes there to buy it or he just like doesn't freshen up his inventory or something like.
It's not the bakery that has it.
Oh, it wasn't? I thought it was.
No, it's the grocery store that he's trying to sell it. He like is selling it for him.
Okay.
Oh.
It's like a little conveni that's like got lots of old crap in there that's not moving off the shelves.
God,
I misunderstood. I thought it was the bakery store that was the convenience store.
This show is so dense. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is a lot.
By the way, Nina Mori's voice actor is Ed from Cowboy Bebop.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew I recognized
Cool.
that.
Also
I meant to
Gaz
write
from
that down.
Invader Zim, which is
Oh my
lord. Okay, so
let's see from there.
Moving on, we find out that the new thing coming out of Naota's head is cat ears.
Yeah, he ditches the school production rehearsal to go hang out with Mamimi more now because he will never leave her.
I guess.
And he's been wearing a hat which the style eludes me and I refuse to look it up.
It's like it's a bucket hat.
Bucket hat? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like, it's that hat that people wear to the beach and also when they're leaving or
fishing.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skateboarders.
And I'm like, I would never wear that. And but I'm like, she takes it off, yeah, and just a perfectly designed cat ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she teases him about skipping and saying, now you're a delinquent too.
Yeah.
So, let's see. So after that, this is where we learn that the name Conti has stuck to the robot for the time being. And he's putting something together in private because if I remember correctly, it's Haruko that busts in on him working on it and he's just trying to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what he's working on. He's collecting pieces. You can see it for a second. It's like a cube of parts because he's making a new head.
I'm trying to maintain mystery.
But it's also...
But it answers her question from earlier.
I know.
It also it's great because he has like the model glue and like all the tools you would use if you were building Gunpla.
He's building his Gunpla head is actually what I put in here.
He's Gunplawing himself.
I forgot about that.
Gunpla?
Okay, so Gunpla, Bob, is what you saw me build when I had those Gundam models in the living room.
Okay.
It is a sort of shorthand phrase for... Yeah. Japan loves to do that, even Kobeni, for Gundam plastic model kits, Gunpla. So basically all of the toys, all the model kits for Gundam robots, those are Gunpla.
Run Spaceballs merchandising.exe.
So you went hoopla for the gunpla.
Yes, I have. Still do.
They talk about Doraemon a lot
Yeah, they do.
because that is a famous fiction. Doraemon is the Garfield of Japan.
That's a good way to put it.
Oh, I'm so sad that it is.
Is it not the Felix the Cat, maybe? Is that more acceptable?
Uh,
Or more palatable?
Felix has fallen off in a way in
Fair
America.
enough.
Last time I saw Felix was on the display of a bootleg MP3 player from the aughts.
Ooh.
Snoopy?
Yeah, kind of actually.
I mean, we're going cat mascots.
We get a scene of there's paparazzi outside Nina Mori's house, and the secretary is there sneaking away again.
Through the sewer this time.
With like a whole scuba kit on.
Yeah.
Best to be prepared.
Let's see here.
But yeah, so the scandal of the public discovering the mayor is having an affair with the secretary means that her parents might be getting divorced.
Mhm.
So her life is kind of upside down right now, and her main focus is this play because she knows her parents will both come to see the play. So she is really invested in getting the play to happen, and is really mad that Naota won't come to rehearsals.
No,
Yeah.
that she really wants to hang out with him.
Also that, also she does have a crush on him.
Mm-hmm.
We find that out when he comes over to his house.
Yeah.
Yes.
She kind of gets disheartened when someone, I don't know who, just crashes into him with their Vespa again, sending him colliding into her as well.
Right. At which point a brain-to-brain transfer happens. Don't worry about that. That wouldn't be foreshadowing anything.
Well, yeah, also she sees his cat ears.
Right. So, yeah, he gets hit by Haruko again, smashes into her, and then basically as a way to be like, hey, sorry about that. Let's bring you home for dinner. And well, as a way of apology, and also, sorry, my dad wrote that zine that just blew up your life. Come over for dinner as way of apology.
Yeah, that's the family I want to have dinner with.
Yeah. And then that also turns into, hey, there's
We're having
probably
curry.
God, the curry subplot.
Yeah.
But it also turns into, hey, there's probably a whole media circus at your house, so if you want to stay the night to have some quiet time, go for it. Yeah, who wants to talk about curry? Steph Curry.
I'll let you do it because my experience with curry is not Japanese curry, so I am the least qualified.
I've only had Indian curry.
Yeah. So in Japan, it's more of a thing to have it be spicy. And Naota notes that he can't handle the spicy. So Haruko got him kids spicy level.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of too much while they're eating.
Little Prince Manhattan style.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But yeah, the dad, the grandpa especially, is almost comatose because it's so spicy.
Yeah.
The dad likes it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the dad likes it because he just wants
Haruko to like him.
To let him have his way.
Fooly Cooly as one might.
Yeah. Oh, you get it. You getting.
She wants to let him fooly her cooly.
Yeah.
God, I hate that sentence.
But yeah, there's a lot during dinner of her just sort of very explicitly repeated animation gag of her saying, I don't mind it at all, about the mess at her house, about her parents, about the spiciness. It's just this is where her head, this is the stuff she's going through, is she's the very much I am not upset by anything right now, but clearly robotically because she's shutting down because she's so upset about everything.
Yeah, she's definitely suppressing it. And then, like, as we said earlier, she's like the class president and everything, so she's very much about, like, the image of her and her family.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, she's the mayor daughter. She probably had that, baked into her from the get-go.
yeah.
We see her take a bath at their house, and if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, it's Common that's talking to her through the window, and
So
just kind of talking about the fact that there is an affair going on.
is it her dad?
I thought it was Common. I could have sworn it was his voice. I could be entirely wrong.
It does sound like
That-
his voice, but
But the dialogue definitely sounded like it was her dad or something.
And I can see that, and you may be right, but I guess that's then the point is, or my question is, okay, never mind that, because I'm also trying to come from this, but your parents love you. But this is probably a parent that's more obsessed with his position than his daughter. So disregard anything I was about ready to say.
I mean, again, this is another one of those where, like, it's hard to tell just because of everything.
Which arguably makes this better.
Oh my god. Okay, no, I'll talk about that later. Sorry, I'm looking things up on wikis.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll be honest. Also, I will put it in here. I will specifically with shows like this too. I will sometimes put subtitles on so I can, catch little minutia or little details, like who is speaking. And in this case, it didn't provide the name of who the speaker was. So that also led to probably my confusion on this of who was actually there. But either way, after the bath, she gets dressed in Nauta's sleepwear and hangs out in his room.
Also, like, she's wearing his PJs, which I feel like this is another one of those things, like, between mouth to mouth and an indirect kiss. This is just more ways of just, like, really unwanted intimacy being thrust upon Nauta.
And his handling of it is very interesting. Like with the indirect kiss, he doesn't have those over exaggerated reactions one would typically expect, as demonstrated in most anime.
Yeah, I think his is very realistic, but also in that way of just like he's upset by all of this, and he's like, "Can everyone please just knock it off?"
Yeah, he's absolutely clearly uncomfortable, but won't make an issue of it.
What was I about to say?
She's wearing glasses.
No, before that,
right.
the bathroom scene. Before we leave that, it sucks that, like, this is Naota's classmate, so Naota is 12. So hey, why are we okay, we want to talk about, like, it's about Naota and his, like, noticing and tribulations of coming to terms with, like, puberty and whatever. Naota's not in this scene. It is just like, this is for the audience to see this naked, save for soap clouds, 12-year-old girl, and this isn't the last time that they are going to do something like this in this episode. And I'm like, this is grosser than everything else going on, and you got some gross stuff going on. I had to call out that nonsense before moving on.
It is interesting, with interesting being very within the respect of how conservative certain aspects of Japanese society can be, how comfortable they are with depicting children in this manner, mostly female, but sometimes male children bathing and being shown on screen, whereas other things are too taboo.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a weird, like, performative, like, just the double standards of, like, Puritanism in Japanese culture is always so weird.
Yeah, it is definitely probably the one thing that keeps me from recommending a lot of anime to certain people, just because, like, there's that one scene, and while one could argue it's like it's not meant to titillate, it's like, but it's still there and unnecessary.
It's like, what is it serving then? Why is it there?
Right.
If you could
right,
show me
exactly.
something else it was serving, we could talk, but
Right, I agree. And that's why I say I have this problem with certain anime. It's like, God, it's just like, ugh. Like if you just showed her like shoulders up, and even then like shoulders like, but shoulders up, fine, I get it. Especially when we're talking about a child.
yeah. Honestly, like doing rewatching of Sailor Moon, again, that is supposed to be a middle school student, and they love to show her like in a bath and thinking about being romanced by college age guys, and I'm just like, oh, in retrospect, this is all super suspect.
Listen, I will, without telling Bob which one it is. There's an anime on our list later that Bob will watch. That in its first episode, again, context is kind of key, but at the same time, still has a girl of, I believe she's 16, being being in a tub bathing. For the purpose of getting clean, and it's not done to titillate. It's actually, when you understand the context, it's done to show like, this other individual doesn't understand the world. But
Last
even then,
week-
that's like uncomfortable to me to a degree, because
Last
it's like,
week
I get
wasn't
what
our girl under 18? Last week, or last episode. I forgot her name. With the Gundam show. Wasn't she 17?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Kiki and
Mhm.
the nude bathing in the lake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's uncomfortable. I made a point of that then too. Like, this is very uncomfortable.
Like, here's
Yeah, that's the thing that comes up in a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Definitely a cultural thing.
Difference.
Yeah.
It kind of it's one of the big reasons why anime is a dirty word, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least,
for some reason, that's the parks your parents always walk in on.
And to circle this all back around, I think this is part of why I want it to be her dad and not Come On, because if it's Come On, that's way worse.
And I'll be honest, I'm with you. I didn't think of it being her dad. I'm more comfortable with the idea of it being her dad. I still don't like the scene and the way it's depicted visually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
But okay. Later, yeah. So we have this big like intimate moment. Again, loves to happen in Naota's room. Is we sort of have this like heart to heart between Naota and Ninamori, where she reveals a couple of things, including she wears glasses actually, and she's wearing contacts all the time, and just nobody notices.
And
what?
It's a scandal. Sorry, interjecting for humor.
Right, scandalous. Yeah, everything in her life is a scandal at this point. But also the bigger one is that she rigged the vote of the play in order to get Naota and her into those roles, so that way he could be her little pet. And
kind of like her father, having a secretary that he can be very comfortable with. She has now found someone she wants to be very comfortable with, in this case in a very public facing role.
Or I mean, just
saying something for 12 years old.
Well, considering she grew up in a political family like that, I have to believe on some level that had an effect on her mentality. I'm not saying
I fully agree.
But yeah, she is for as much as you as a viewer know, she has to be upset about her father and his doings, is doing the same things essentially.
Yeah.
This is entire mimicry, because she sees her father getting away with it, and she's like, oh, I want this too.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if it's mimicry. Like, I could believe this as, like, again, talking about the show as, like, a sort of examination on how people deal with, self-agency. Like, there is so much going on in her life that she is just sort of collateral damage of, especially with, whatever scandal her parents are wrapped up in. So this idea of, like, I need something I can control in my life, like, that is a totally, like, rational, emotional reaction.
Yeah, and this is how she fixes her parents, because they'll both come to see her play.
Yeah.
I at no point think of her as a villain, per se, if we were to use that word. It's more of a...
She's an antagonist.
Not even.
She's another toxic relationship, because she has like she has control issues over Naota. Like yes, she wants to orchestrate this stuff, but like her being into play doesn't require Naota to be into play to
Right.
have the parent part go. She just
Make-
wants to have control over Naota.
Yeah,
this
like
is-
additionally, making him be in the play as well means that they're forced to spend time together.
Yeah.
Right. And this is kind of an example of whether she realized it or not, she subconsciously learned the behavior of I have power, I will use it to get what I want.
Right.
Her father did that. I mean, the very Bill Clinton-esque secretary, or in this Clinton scenario, intern scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have Puss in Boots Gate, I guess.
Yep. But yeah, that's Naota is pissed at this. And yeah, where do we go from there? Do we go right?
Haruko's sitting on the top bunk and has been there the whole time.
Right.
Did you hear anything? No.
But it's this weird moment where like this is like the first and maybe only time where we really see like Haruko be on Naota's side.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
in this case, it's specifically Haruko just likes pushing people's buttons, and in this case, she's needling Ninamori because she can tell that Ninamori's into Naota, so
Yeah.
she's fucking with her.
And I think there's also totally a read of like if she is like defending Naota, it's in that sense of like, no, you don't get to play with my toys
Mhm.
kind
That's
of way.
exactly the read I took from as this is my toy. You get your own toy. It's mine.
That's my note for this scene is every girl in Naota's life sucks. What the fuck?
Yeah, they aren't the healthiest. Also, at some point, we get Naota no longer has cat ears. They go elsewhere. Nina looks at Ninamori.
Well, that's like in the that's in school the
That's
next day.
Later, yeah.
Well, yeah.
He's been wearing different hats and stuff.
Yeah.
Very inconspicuous. A lover of cats, one might say.
Oh, that's right. It's it transfers to her after he outs her for rigging the vote.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Excuse me. Sorry,
Right.
that part of my notes got smudged.
Because then we move into the like rehearsal room the next day, and now Haruko has shown up to deliver Naota's lunch, but Naota was about to just walk out to ditch rehearsal anyway, and Ninamori like grabs him by the wrist, and there's this big dramatic shot of them pointing and leaning in different directions, and they just start having it out about you need to be here, I don't want to be here, yada yada. She rips his hat off, revealing his ears, and so that's when he lets loose in retort that she rigged the vote. And then all hell breaks loose.
As if there wasn't enough hell.
Yeah. But that's when she overflows and the space robot springs forth out of her head, and it's this really weird, gross
Not
like
spider.
yeah, it's a spider hot air balloon, I
It
guess.
uses her legs to kick and hit people and grab them.
Yeah, like so this just goes like the way this show treats Ninamori, like again, I think a fairly like well and interesting written character, but just like she's in her gym outfit, which, you know, if you know anime, is like a sweatshirt and basically like outer panties, yeah. And so it's like she's all legs, and now she's just dangling there and is just kicking. And there's a gag. So Haruko has brought Kanti, which is lucky because now there's another robot to fight. But like, there's this gag where while kicking at Kanti, her pants get like hooked on him, and he's just like, "What's this? Oh no!" And then he's like lining them up so that when she kicks, he gets to slip them back on. Which is like, hey, good for Kanti for being like kind of the most like upstanding and best character in this show. But again, hey, show, why is the like pantless 12-year-old your gag that you're gonna go for here? Come on.
At least they don't cut off Conti at all while they're doing it.
Yeah, that's
That's very true.
But then, yeah, the fight spills out of the rehearsal room and up onto the roof where...
No.
No?
Note. Yes. I'd like to point out that I think we could make the argument there is another horse in this episode.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yep.
Because this could be the proof that she is an alien, because she can summon her scooter with a whistle.
Yeah.
Oh
Maybe it's just
my gosh, huh.
maybe she's just a better engineer than Elon Musk.
All right.
I think they
Yeah,
even
'cause-
pose together, don't they?
So yeah, 'cause
They do.
the reason the scooter is at home is because she's been working on fixing it because it was like hecked up.
Which, by the way, I skipped over this at the time, but like when Naota brings her like the replacement parts and she dumps the parts out of the box into her hand, it's just a gunpla. It's just a tiny gunpla.
Yeah.
But I think the joke there is that it's like we don't know what actual Vespa parts look like, so here is just a pile of what we know looks mechanical.
I mean, it turns into like a bolt or something in her hand that she wrenches on. So
Right, but just like I don't know. If that is just like an animation joke, I'm into it.
I choose to believe there's something up with the bike where it can just convert certain material into what it needs.
Oh yeah, I mean the bike's probably also from space, so
I just love that too. Here's a Gundam. Yeah,
Mhm.
that works.
yeah, that'll do it.
And a note.
Right, so the fight spilled out onto the roof. It's like Conti basically grabs Naota right away to go into Super Saiyan mode.
Mhm.
But they're struggling when all of a sudden the spicy curry lunch that Haruko brought to Needle Naota gets torn out of the bag and flies through the air and right into the waiting maw of this big robot. That's
Sure.
At which point it's too spicy for the robot and it immediately gets robot diarrhea and lets Ninamori go and then starts puking off the roof. And then it's big shot for the robot hunter and gun time again, transforms, blows away the robot. Fight's over.
And they all live happily ever after.
Well,
Well,
at the end, the episode ends,
Well,
and
Nina Mori gets to be in the play.
yeah, Nina Mori is also shown wearing glasses at the end, but they're fake glasses,
Yes.
which really irritates me. It's like, just take off the goddamn contacts and put on your glasses, kid.
oh
I
my
know, right?
god! I never even thought of that. Oh my god!
Because there's no lenses in them. She puts her
Yeah.
fingers right through where the lens would be. I'm like, I hate you. I'm so mad at you for this. You were fine. You were understandable, and then you did this.
So, for the last like 2 decades or whatever, I took it that that is her revealing that even when she was talking to Naota, the glasses were fake.
It could have been that, but then why mention she wears contacts?
To fuck with Naota and like she
But she
is
has-
like creating realities that she can have control over. Like, as part of that, it is forcing a intimacy in order to get control over him.
Perhaps I looked at this and I read this as she's still wearing the contacts because, like, a politician's daughter in this case, wants to maintain her image. So this is for style. I don't really need them. To
Yeah,
hide
or
weakness,
for the
like a politician.
character in the like as part of the costume for the characters.
Right. Maybe
Yeah.
even that.
Like that's the thing. Unless it is for some reason specifically part of the character's costume, why are you wearing the glasses at all then?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been. So, because the way they depicted it, or the way it was, I feel as we, the audience, were led to believe there was no reason for her to be wearing glasses at all, because the very fact she was wearing glasses when Naoto saw her in his room caught him off guard.
It is very set up to be this moment of like, okay, the fight has ended, everybody has grown a little. Because like we see it with Naota, he is they're at the play and he is in the costume of the sidekick cat, meaning that he is clearly, done this same thing and has been like, well, you know what? This person is clearly, this is clearly a toxic relationship that I'm in, but I'll be the bigger man and support them and give in to whatever they want. Show morals. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But so you think, okay, maybe she is also, this is just her also having this, moment of personal growth, and what she's doing is she's coming clean about this, like, okay, you know what, I need to stop putting up in a front, I need to start being more honest, and that'll be her growth. But then it's just not. It is just her. She is fucking with someone, but I don't know if it's Nauta. I don't know if it's the audience at the play. I don't know if it's us, the audience watching at home.
Yes.
Those two words, they're fake, and that shot has haunted me for the last 20 years because I still don't understand what is going on right there.
So here was the fullness of my read on that. In addition to like, oh, she's still wearing the contacts, she's trying to maintain her image or provide some kind of like defense of people realizing weakness, regardless of how it actually is. Regarding the glasses, it's also showing that she's kind of a real human being, because people do not change the next day with huge moral shifts in their personality or huge dynamic shifts in their personality, at least not without some incredible impetus.
Yeah.
And in the way this show is, I don't think the robot experience was enough to call it a severe impetus. She is still at heart the daughter of a politician and has subconsciously, maybe even consciously, learned the behaviors of being a politician. And so rather than being real, she will continue to be fake, like a politician. So that's why I say this is my read on her. Is like, she will absolutely become the next mayor at some point in her life.
Yeah. I think it's one of those, like, I don't know, maybe if I watch the show 4 more times, something will become clear to me, but just not yet. Not with that one.
Again, where I won't give anything away, but where we see her later at the end of the 6-part OVA, and I think it's interesting, and I really think this is just part of, like everyone else in this, part of them growing up. Again, part of the coming of age story factor.
Yeah, I absolutely. But yeah, that's it for episode 3. Where, oh God, where do we go from here? Hey Bob, what'd you think? Let's start with there.
Bob, what were your thoughts and feelings?
So because I only know these 3 episodes, I really do feel it's very coming of age that also happens to have robots and aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you
and
do.
A weird, ugly factory.
As you do.
I think looking at it from the point of this kid growing up and all the different relationships he has that way, as well as his fellow classmates, it's not bad. As far as the robot fighting episodes, it's not bad. Could work a little bit more on the, mysticism. Otherwise, it would have had the trifecta.
We haven't even gotten 2 of the best characters in this show yet.
Yeah, believe
Really?
We're still.
But I
missing
love
out.
the Vespa.
The Vespa is very good.
Side note: do we need to start making an anime horses list? Because we've now had.
It's
Yeah,
already started.
We have one.
We do.
It's on the list.
Hold on.
I
Wait
didn't
a
think I
minute.
made the joke.
Hold on.
It's about that time in the show where you need to pull up the list. Anyway.
Hold on. Wait. How hard did I hit my head in the last 3 weeks?
We are at.
Oh my God! Am I developing Alzheimer's? Don't know.
I think this is our 4th horse. If we classify the Vespa as a horse.
Oh, it's time for an apocalypse then. You're just saying.
Oh wait, what's the 4th worth? I only got 3 on the list right now.
Is it only
This
3
is
if
the
we include the
4th one.
Vespa?
Because this is the 4th.
Yeah.
No, that's what
Yes.
I mean. Including this, I only have 3. What's the 4th?
Oh.
I know we had the one from.
We had Bebop. And we had Gundam.
Gundam.
Yeah, that's Onyx and Funsaki, respectively.
Best
Okay,
horse
so
ever.
maybe that Vespa is 3rd.
Okay.
Which I would put Vespa at 2.
Okay.
Above Gundam horse.
Okay.
Oh,
We'll
Bob,
be
I don't
up.
know if we can be friends anymore. This is how anime friendships end.
Okay, we now have official numbered ranking of horses going.
Yes.
All right, good.
Hey, did you
not
know we
one
have
better
a
than
list
the
of
other.
horses on here?
Yes, our lists are robot waifu,
Yep.
horses, songs, and shows.
Oh my god, I'm starting to really question my own reality. Like, did something happen and I've just forgotten a huge chunk of time?
Maybe? It's been piecemeal. It's definitely been piecemeal over
Oh,
time.
yeah. So, now here's a question. I don't know. We can have an answer on. Can we rate the OP for this? Because there's not really a definitive OP.
So
OP.
Oh.
What's OP?
the opening
Opening?
song.
Opening song. Yeah.
I had put some thought into that before this, and yes and no. There is no theme song. However, I would put this at number 1 easy for songs. This is
Well, I was going to say
so
if
good.
there's going to be a representative,
It's Ride on a Shooting Star.
yeah,
right?
the ending
Yeah.
title is the sort
Yeah.
of okay.
And
Which
it's
I can
just
agree with that.
amazing.
Yeah, the
Like,
music
I-
in this is incredible.
Little insight into how I watched this one. I watched the show like 2 weeks ago.
hmm
Okay.
On the drive home today, because I had a 2-hour drive, I just listened to the show as a refresher.
Mm,
And I challenge you guys to just listen to this show.
It's
mhm.
really
Yeah.
good because I'll let you know. I watched it yesterday, but I was listening to it in the background twice already throughout this, and that's why I had to sit down and watch it because I realized like, oh, I'm starting to tune things out. But I would anytime the songs, the soundtrack started to play, I would find myself just kind of bobbing my head back and forth, or starting moving and a little dancing in my chair, or actually get up and just kind of move around to the beat of whatever was playing because it's so good.
They would just let the songs play. There are points where it's just the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I think there's a when you talk about FLCO and the sort of, the soundtrack band The Pillows, I think there's a direct comparison to be made with Cowboy Bebop and the Seatbelts, who did all the iconic songs for that show. Like the band who is on the soundtrack is like as iconic, is as much a part of the characters of the show as anything else about it. The visual, the characters, it is like part of its identity. And also like we've been saying all along, like the kind of music that they do, very Scott Pilgrim, very, you wanna, again, Manic Pixie Dream Girls, like it is very of an era, of a vibe, of a scene. So it is kind of perfect. It is like the pieces all fit together perfectly. This is like basically a period piece, but not like a period of time, but a period of people's lives,
Mm-hmm. Well, if you were to consider the outro the opening sequence, which is kind of like a weird bend, and that would be up to us as a group,
Mhm.
I would put it number 1.
I've already put it on there. It is above Outlaw Star Through the Night.
Which knocks out our first goodbye.
That's
Scott
right.
That's true.
Now, Arcane.
Now we have a top 10 that does not include some Imagine Dragons bullshit.
So okay, I will out myself on the podcast here now. I don't really care one way or the other. Why does everyone hate Imagine Dragons so much? This is one thing I know. Just one day it seemed to start happening, and I knew nothing about it, and I just chose.
I
never to
mean,
dive
I think
into
it's like a Nickelback thing where like most of their stuff all
Ah.
kind
I
of
was exactly going to reference Nickelback. It's
okay.
Yeah, but like
no, that's enough for me. Thank you.
everything
Goodbye.
kind of, everything kind of sounds the same to most people, and it's just like
Because I'll be honest, I haven't really looked into a lot of the things. I just heard this one, like, oh, this seems fine. Nothing special, but fine.
I think it's one of those things where it's like it got overplayed. Like when
Sure.
oh, definitely.
what was the first like one that got big radio play was I'm waking up to ash and
Radioactive,
dust.
yeah.
Like
Oh my god, just hearing that, yeah, it does sound. Oh,
yeah,
oh.
because it's too much, and
it like
they aren't whiny like Nickelback. They're just way too common.
yeah. I think that's the thing, is like that song when it first came out was pretty good. It got a lot of radio play, and then it got overplayed, and then their follow-up songs
And referenced and like
were very like that's the thing. The fact that they picked it for their title song is just like they became cliche. I think that's more what it. I don't think people hate them. I think people ripping on them because they like became cliche.
Yeah, it
That's
got
fair.
like memeified so much.
Yeah.
That's fair. That helps. So I'm going to ask you guys this here, because Bob, I know I mentioned to Joe earlier with you around. I already have your 2023 Christmas present picked out, but I have a
Wait,
question. I know, right? Hey, Nick and Joe, let me ask: do you have a way to play vinyl?
Yes.
I have your Christmas gift now.
We do? Oh, right, we do. I'm looking at it.
I bet you can't
Not
guess what
not
it
even
is.
that one.
Must be a
Um,
phonograph. Start
It-
cranking them records.
It's
But 'cause
Secret devil music.
I won't lie.
it's a wax cylinder.
I mean, that's cool. Because I got curious enough because I kind of like Bob and everyone else said this is really good, and I pride myself on my upstart hipster moment of having a vinyl collection.
Hmm.
Mhm.
We are not sponsored by Right Stuff Anime, but I go there frequently to buy things. And for $40, you can get the vinyl of the OG vinyl Fooly Cooly soundtrack. Buy the pillows
Ooh.
with, unlike the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack, which
Oh,
completely
with the
disappointed
song?
me, actually has Right on a Shooting Star as its second track.
Yay.
There is nothing more appropriate I've ever heard than the FLCL soundtrack on vinyl.
Yes,
That
that's
is-
the other part. Like, it has to be there.
Like, I say it and it feels like I'm saying a tautology. It feels redundant,
Right?
but like, wow.
Everything about this mood, because it's not. This is a mood. This is a vibe. FLCL is that, and arguably that is what it's stated to be in its own way.
Yeah.
Vinyl falls in it. Being a vinyl falls into that. It absolutely makes sense. This would have to be that way.
Is the vinyl okay?
Yeah.
Is the vinyl colored the same yellow as the Vespa with the P exclamation mark on
I'm
it?
gonna break your heart. The vinyl
Uh-huh.
the image, is straight black. The
Okay.
casing, it's all black and white. Though there is some insert imagery that does have color of Haruka and Mamimi next to the track list.
Interesting. Okay.
But it's got some very well done sketch art of, I believe, I can't get a good look at it, that is supposed to be Haruka, or Haruko, excuse me.
Do we want to, while we're wrapping up, do we want to take another stab at what we think the takeaway from at least these 3
Yes.
episodes is?
Well, I don't know if I want to say just these 3 episodes, but here's the impression I'm getting based on these 3 episodes.
Well, okay, hang on a second.
Okay.
Bob,
Yes.
you gonna go ahead and watch the other 3?
Yeah.
Are we to this point?
Yes.
Well, depending on the answer, the next question is,
Yes.
do you mind if we spoil it with discussion?
Okay. I'm going to flip the script of last week. I would give this show a ranking of around 7.5 to 8. I personally genuinely enjoyed it,
Mhm.
regardless of how crazy it was. I like the pop art, the franticness. I don't think I'm going to continue watching it.
Really?
Interesting.
Even
I
though
really,
you are halfway through.
even though I'm halfway through, even though I think it's fantastic, it is just not for me. I think it is well written.
Okay.
My takeaway is that this is a coming to fruition in your transfer from a childhood to adult. I think they explain it well. I think they don't just keep it to the main protagonist, but to every single character, from the robot who's trying to build his future self to his sibling who I hope comes back at some point to talk to Amini. All of his female friends, even the jerks who mock him, I feel like probably are going to have some sort of transitional point. I hope.
Do you care if we spoil it then?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh
I'm
my
trying
God.
to find. I cannot find a good shot. I was gonna say even if I show you this, but I can't find a good shot of Haruko in the bunny suit with the guitar running up the arm of the gigantic robot.
Which is very specifically a reference to the Comic Head opening animations that Gynax started with before they did Ava or anything like that. Like,
We need to show that to Bob. There's our Patreon goal.
oh, interesting, right?
So, but yes, I think this is a great show. I don't know. I have no drive to see more of it, and it's hard to explain
Interesting.
why.
No, you know what? I think that makes perfect sense because,
Yeah.
like, when this show hit TV, like for our generation, we were this age. We were
Yeah.
somewhere between 12 and 17, basically. And so I think like for people who saw this show at that time, nothing resonated harder. But to look at it and go back now, like I'm really interested to like I am happy to hear such an interesting take from you, because like you are somebody who did not have, you are seeing this only in retrospect, and I'm so interested that it's just like it's not
Maybe that's
clicking
what
for
it
you
is.
that way. Yeah, like I
I've
think that's
lived
totally
that
fair.
point in my life.
Oh
But
God,
to
what
see
does
it
that say
again,
about
it's
us?
like I can see what's happening. Oh, you got a feeling of been there, so you know how the future is going to be.
Mm.
Kind of, not really, not in this show. You can't state that definitively. But oh wow. Hey.
There's
Sorry,
just
looking
a
at
lot going on there, isn't there?
Yeah.
that being said,
Oh God, I forgot about the big boy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The big
I
man.
find looking at this, you can tell you start off just thinking this is going to be a show about Haruka or Haruko.
It doesn't
his-
matter.
I know, I'm just
And
kidding.
him growing up, but this is truly an ensemble show.
Yeah, you can see the two characters we haven't met yet in the bottom right, the redhead and the blonde with the giant rifle.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's the thing, like Naota's story, like it is about a whole bunch of like parallel story. Like every character is kind of having their own storyline, which is part of why it's so chaotic, but also part of why there's so much to unpack, and so many things to follow and discover on subsequent viewings. But like what the show does is in episode 6, the like conclusion of Haruko's spacefaring storyline does intertwine with Naota's coming of age storyline in what I think is a real cop out way, but at least they are tied together.
And I think that's part of why I'm like, because just a lot of how it ends is just very interesting, and something I want to discuss in the thoughts, the after action report of this as a whole series.
That's where we're at.
So, okay, spoiler warning for anyone listening that hasn't actually seen the whole series of Fooly Cooly, FLCL. So, Bob, in the following 3 episodes, we meet, and I honestly can't even remember their names now since I didn't have to write them down.
Mechanical
the
people.
redhead who has seaweed eyebrows, essentially.
Commander Amaro.
Amaro, thank you.
Or
And his
Amaro.
assistant.
And his assistant Lieutenant Kitsurubami.
And Amaro is very aware of and seemingly familiar with Haruko.
Yeah, they're here for Haruko.
Yeah,
They're basically space FBI, right?
They work for the Department of Interstellar Immigration.
Yeah.
But she was an alien, okay.
Oh my God, it's interstellar ice.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Woof.
But
so
they're
they're
here
after her
to stop Haruko from doing what she's trying to do.
Yeah, and you learn there's a space pirate lord out there named
Adamusk.
Adamusk, thank you. I almost had it. Adamusk is out there. Gee, I wonder who Adamusk is.
Okay, so the reason that Naota's brain is not there is because, and so the reason that Haruko was like searching all these different people and then finally lucked out and finding Naota is because there is a, I'm going to say quote unquote technology where basically like if both hemispheres of a person's brain work together in just the right way, they can basically open up a wormhole and things can pass through. So all of these robots are coming from far out in space and they are traveling through this wormhole in Naota's brain, which is why his brain's not there because it's just the portal, and why they all come out of his head.
Oh.
And she thinks either he is Adamusk, has already brought Adamusk through, or has yet to bring Adamusk through.
Yeah, she was looking for somebody who can do this brain portal to get her hands on Adamisk, the pirate king.
Ah,
Of space.
He is a big bird space pirate king. He looks like Samus Aran's dad.
Yeah,
well,
if
I should
Samus
be
Aran's
grateful
dad
I
had
watched these.
if Samus Aran's dad had a TV face.
No. That's
Oh.
Conti. That's different.
That's Conti, yeah.
I thought she called him Adamisk in the
Because
fifth.
Adamisk might be a being of pure energy. So
Ah,
every time Canty goes red after he eats Nauta is
Yeah.
because he is basically he eats Nauta in order to use the portal in his brain so Adamus can channel through and take over Conti. So whenever
Okay.
Conti is red, it's not the robot or Nauta controlling it and doing these heroic things. It is Space Pirate King Adamisk controlling
Okay.
Conti in those moments.
I missed that fault line on the follow through, so okay, that helps with everything. Because Adamisk's weapon is a even better guitar.
Is another extremely specific model of guitar.
Yeah, the weapon of the Space Pirate King, Adamisk, and also Haruko is very much enamored with Adamisk.
Yeah, there's a thing where she either wants to steal his power for her own and she wants to be the Pirate King, or she just has the hugest crush on him. Either way, her thing is to get to Adamisk.
Have you ever loved someone so much you wanted to be them? Like merge with them? A la John Carpenter's The Thing.
I can't say that particular emotion has come through me.
I feel
Not
like
that
that's
I'm
what
trying
she's
to
got.
keep shame anyone, but yeah, not for me.
I thought she was just trying to manifest him.
I think she's really trying to manifest him.
Because Medical Mechanica is using him for something.
I think so.
Yeah.
Apparently, the robot Canty was built in order to go track him. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that is only so okay. They
The lore is weird.
Recently, within the last couple of years, they released seasons plural
2 and 3.
I was gonna say plural seasons 2 of
Yeah.
FLCL because they are progressive and alternative, and there's
And
also
2 more are coming.
two more are coming, and they are going to continue that Haruko Adamisk line in some way while also still being Bildung's romans of some random kids. There's this so what's that time gap? We want to talk about shows where a season 2 didn't have to be made. What are we looking at with the time gap between FLCLs?
I believe it was 2018. 2018.
Cool.
And
2018.
the next 2 are coming this year.
Oh boy. But yeah, so between that and I think when they did the manga adaptation, part of why it was changed was also to sort of fill in some of these specifics about what is actually going on. That
let me read you the first paragraph of Atomsk's section in the character wiki.
Ooh, please do.
He's saying his name is so hard. It's hard to get the msk.
Mm-hmm.
Atomsk, also known as the Pirate King, due to his NO channel enabling him to steal entire star systems, is an enigmatic energy being in the form of a phoenix-like creature with a nose ring identical to the metal ring that Haruko's bracelet has, which allows her to detect his presence, which is why sometimes it was rattling.
Whenever...
In the show, when...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
His power to manipulate space made him sought by both Haruko and Medical Mechanica, the latter having successfully captured him before the events of the first season. His bass guitar is a Gibson. Amaro assumed that Atomsk was a human. Haruko's goal was to devour him and take his power for herself.
Okay.
Sure.
It's the way they play it in episode 5 is that when it ends with her holding Conti Adamisk close to her was left the viewer with a very arguably undeniable impression that she loved him.
Obsession goes a lot of ways.
To be fair, maybe her Harley Quinn moment of "I love you, give me your power."
Oh boy. Oh, hang on. So she got Joker. She's a Joker.
Oh
my God, she is.
She's like a dog chasing a car. She wouldn't even know what to do if she caught it.
I don't know. She seems like she has a good idea.
I don't know. She's either gonna eat Adam Misk or make love to him.
Porque no los both.
You know?
It's the order of which happens that really should concern you.
Okay, so we have rated this. The takeaway of this show. Either
I
just for
think
the
it's
first,
coming of age.
but it's a coming of age, but like what it. So the last 3 episodes we keep talking about now it has to swing the bat, which is basically like the catchphrase to mean like you have to
Gotta step up to the plate.
you have to
Yeah.
make a decision, I guess. It's like what
Yep.
you have to pick something that you want to pursue, right?
True maturity means following through, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. Making a decision and seeing it through
I mean, again,
is the way it's positioning it.
for something from Studio Gainax, it makes sense that it is sort of like it would later be translated as he mustn't run away. But yeah, that was a good joke. That was a joke. That was a laugh of recognition. All right. But like, again, I think so much of this show, I think that doesn't make sense to look at that as like the takeaway from the show. Because if we look at the show, he knows what he wants throughout most of the show, which is just to not be the whipping boy of everybody else working through their own problems. Like like even in these first 3 episodes when he's like ditching the school play or, you know, like he's doing it through a lot of ditching and you can be like, oh, that's running away. But like so much of that is like, no, he knows what he wants is he wants to have like agency over himself. That is a very mature thing to want. And the idea of like, no, you gotta pick one of these girls to say you love. It's like, that's what you're going to think like maturity is like. And that's why I think it is this weird thing of like, it's actually a story about consent. Cause it's just like, it would be kind of a harem show because so many girls want him for one toxic reason or another, but like he does kind of have his choice of girls. But the thing is like, he doesn't want to pick any of them. But then when you get to the end, if swing the bat is to like make your choice, it's like, no, his choice was he doesn't want any of them. So
Right.
I get this weird read from the end of the show that it's like the moral of the show is like, it doesn't matter if you want any of them. It matters that you pick one and follow through. And I'm like, no, he at the start of this show, I feel like he had like a healthier sort of motivational standpoint than at the end.
So hear me out.
Okay. I would love to hear anything.
Sure. So when I say from my perspective, yes, it's about maturity. Swing the bat means take some action. Take in a sense control direction of your life. Don't just complain. Don't just know what you want. Do something. Doesn't matter what, anything. Just do something. Consequences in this case be damned because we're going with generality here. But to be specific, he makes a decision. Arguably, as when we see the end of the series, he's not really. Yes. Oh my God, her name just escaped my head. I know that Ari, the politician.
Nina Mori.
Nina Mori. Thank you. She's hanging out with him and his friends, and they share a drink at one point. But he doesn't give it really any thought, other than I am sharing a drink with a person in his behavior. I believe the decision he'd make was more to act, to be who he wants to be, not just say I know who I want to be, but to actually commit to the bit. So he's not choosing a role. He's choosing, and this is where I think part of the coming of age also, especially as we discussed it, I started to think it's avoiding repeating cycles because we see a lot of cycles kind of people getting stuck in them. Mamimi getting stuck in the cycle of I have this affection for this one person. Well, they're gone. Well, I have to keep showing affection to someone. She's addicted to a feeling and she keeps repeating it to keep having it because it's how she copes. Nina Mori, she is repeating the cycle of her father's behavior to a degree. So there's that. We have Haruko in her own way, repeating the cycle of searching
Mhm.
for the Pirate King until she gets the result she wants. If we look at um, Naota, we see him and we see his father and arguably his grandfather before him. Both seem kind of relatively less desirable ends of a journey.
Sure.
His father living, he is the otaku who grew older but not wiser necessarily.
And his grandfather is the old man who reads Hustler all day.
Yeah, he is the sex pest in his own way. He is a product of his era, and boy is he a product of it.
Sure.
And Gynax, much like a studio, much like a show later we'll talk about,
Mhm.
really likes to take shots at otaku and the otaku lifestyle. And I think what we're seeing here is the choice, the swinging the bat of, are you gonna be like your father and your grandfather and just not really grow out of who you are, or are you going to take some agents, actually act on the agency you say you want, and be different, grow up in its definition of growing mature, as opposed to, I'm going to write my thesis on Ava, part 2 on the rebuild movies now, like my father before me.
That makes a lot of sense. The idea of like looking at it as like breaking cycles, I think that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense because like while he and the idea of like I do feel like that's all right, looking at it one way, like
Mhm.
that is it's weird because that's what he kind of wants to do, but you
Yeah.
can look at it as like, yes, all he has at the beginning is like he can complain about it, he can try to run away from conversations or whatever. Like he doesn't have very effective tools for following through on his actions, but like part of that is because he's a 12-year-old with all of these non-mature adults in his life,
Mhm.
or just the idea of like running away is different from running towards your own goal.
Right.
But like even at the end of episode 1, like because we have the bookend of the sour drink, what do you call it?
Soda or whatever.
Yeah, the indirect kiss thing. Because
Yeah.
like like the first time he's just like staring at it, and I don't think he ever drinks it. But then the episode ends with him like staring at it, and then just like Space Marine chin, and just says, "All right, I'm doing this." Followed by episode 2, where he's like, "I've decided to say what." Like he is making decisions and trying to act on his own decisions the entire show. So it's weird to me that it's like, no, he hasn't actually done it till the end when he seems to be kind of doing it all along.
I would argue that early on it's him not sure what to do, so acting.
Mhm.
Whereas throughout the series, as he experiences the events that occur and encounters the scenarios he does, he learns what he doesn't like about the performative nature of that. He's doing these things, but he's still arguably not happy.
Right. Like
And I
he,
think through the first 5 episodes, we see him kind of understand, like, this is why I am not happy. And in the 6th episode, he gets the power of the Great Space King, which is essentially taking a hold of the ultimate power one can have, themselves, their agency, acting for themselves, acting on their own instincts, desires, and motivations, symbolically.
Mhm.
As such, I would say what this is representative of is him figuring out who he wants to be as a person going forward, and that he doesn't want to repeat cycles, be a crutch, or prop up other people's, false not bravado. What's the word I'm looking for? False facades. They're facades of who they are. He wants to be him,
yeah,
and at least in these 3 episodes, we also dealt with possibly getting used or misdirected by exterior powers of government. And
Mhm.
he doesn't want to do that. He wants to live for himself and not be part of a cycle. That's the power. He's breaking that cycle. And he's figured that out. Because again, in the last episode, sure, he shares the drink with politician's daughter, name escaped me again. Nini?
Nina Mori.
Nina Moore. wow, I just can't hold on to her name to save my life.
I can only get it when you forget it. It's like a
Thank you.
yin yang kind of thing.
And he shares the drink with Nina Mori in the last episode, and there's no even hesitation, because when you think of it, the hesitation is, okay, what do I do? Whereas he takes a drink from her after it's offered and just has a drink, because this is normal. It means nothing more to him than just having a drink. He's not letting other people's interpretations or expectations decide what
I
this action means for him.
I think that may be what it is, because like now as you're explaining it, I'm thinking like the things that he quote unquote decides on in most of these episodes are to fit into whatever role the people were asking of him of. Like that's the whole thing with he's in the shadow of his brother. He is Nina Mori's cat. He is the replacement for his older brother for Mamimi. He is the link to Adamisk for Haruko. He is all of these things, and up until the end, everything he picks, he says like, all right, I'll do it, is like he feels like giving into what these other people want is maturity. Like that is, he's like, oh, I feel bad now, let me, but then the last one is he's like, no, I am going to pursue what I am going to agree to what I want to do, not just to sort of I am going to create
These
my
are all
own
my
role.
terms.
Yeah, I'm going to create my own expectations for myself and stick to those instead of agreeing or disagreeing from the roles that everybody else has set out for me, which is like funny because in a lot of ways the whole swing the bat thing is still referencing to him and being in the shadow of his baseball player brother. So it's just like, oh no, the best thing that he could do is to not swing the bat, but to like kick the ball, like that would actually be kind of an amazing twist.
And I would even say there is a through line here in addition to that, of all these people, his actions, you could argue, are he's motivated to help others, but how can he help others if he doesn't even know how to help himself?
Mm.
This is the moment where he figures out, I have to take care of myself if I am really going to be helpful to anyone else. And that's that realization, I believe, can be that turning point or that catalyst for taking charge of one's life.
Well, so that's the thing that gets me about that moment of him, swinging the bat or whatever, is like he confesses his love to Haruko, and like it's like one thing where it's like, okay, he is doing this thing, he is deciding on his own path, he is building a role for himself, but that's where I still get a little twisted, because it's just like, okay, but he is still like what he's doing is doubling down on like maybe the most toxic relationship that he's been involved in here. Like I don't think that's a good out. Like he is lucky that then his brain bridge breaks and Haruko moves on. Like
hear me out.
Okay.
And this is a very hard lesson I had to learn at one point. Just because you love someone or have feelings for them doesn't mean you keep them in your life, because they can be incredibly toxic people. They can be incredibly damaging to your life. But maybe getting that out, saying the thing, it's like, okay, I've said this. Now that it's out there, we move on, because it doesn't have to be a romance comedy moment or an absolute romance trope of, I've said it and now I'm just in love with you. I have said the thing. Now I can move on because I have accomplished. Because for some people, that not even saying it is a regret. It can be a real thing people get hung up on. He said, okay, I've done it. I pulled the trigger. I swung the bat. I swung for the fences, and I told her how I feel, and that didn't stop it. Fine. We're still going through with this, and I guess my feelings for her are just going to be something that get lost as collateral going forward to save the day in this instance. In order for him to save himself, to become someone he wants to be and break the cycle.
I like that a lot, because that absolutely is true and is a very healthy thing to learn. I remember the read being that like he is still a 12-year-old. Like if he is gaining the maturity to be able to just like admit to himself what his feelings are, I don't think he can do the full Rumpelstiltskin gambit of giving it a name gives me control over it, and that includes letting me able to let it go. Like, I
That's when
think
suspension of disbelief kicks in.
I guess, but I just still always read it like, no, he is thinking this is the path I want to go down because he is still like an immature, stupid boy. As much as it is like, I think the way that it shakes out is just like he admits it, and then Haruko leaves, and then it's just like, okay, but he did admit it, so he is better able to process the losing it then, so it is like still healthier. But like, man,
Right.
if she didn't leave, like if she still had a reason to hang around him, oh, that would have been the worst thing for him. That would have messed him up so much more than the way it actually shook out.
And arguably, just because he's figured out what he, in a sense, needs to do, which is take actual action in his life, doesn't mean he's figured out what that looks like or
Sure.
what the right direction is. He's just figured out, if I am going to, and arguably talking about losing things, everyone else is processing a loss of some kind and not handling it well. Arguably, he has learned how to handle loss of something. In this case, loss of something you love. I mean, we don't need to keep kicking the dead horse that is Mamimi and what she lost.
Sure.
And Nina Mori, I got it. Lost the family, the dynamic that she grew up, the love of a stable home, and the perfect dynamic, as it were, the picture perfect dynamic, realizing it was all a facade. Again, my favorite word of the day. So he is, and arguably, I'm sure his Naoto's father and grandfather have lost something. I mean, his mom's not in the picture, nor his grandmother, for many
Also,
different possible reasons.
they're also missing his brother.
And correct, yes, his brother. Thank you, because I forgot that part too. And my point. Thank you for helping me
And I
find
mean,
it.
specifically, the grandfather is the one who like really latched onto to his older brother for his baseball, because he loves baseball.
And he didn't like Mamimi hanging around him.
Right, and he's kind of like considers his son and Naota to be
Failures.
Yeah, little failures because they're not also into baseball
and arguably even Naota losing his brother, his loss, he still had to also come to terms with, because now he's at the front and center in the eye of his grandfather and father.
Yeah.
So everyone here has handled loss poorly. Haruko losing her ability to find what she wants out of the Space King and its eldritch nature. So to this point, he's in a sense figured out, in a sense, rejection, loss. He's figured out how to process that, and that's one of the key pillars, especially when you look at how a lot of otaku are portrayed. They don't really get, and arguably a lot of people really have struggle with rejection. I mean, think of how many times someone is depicted, or even in your own personal lives, I'm not going to assume, so let's just say maybe you have, maybe you haven't, dealt with that feeling of, oh, what if so and so doesn't share this feeling, or they're not like, they aren't like how I expected them to be, or won't react to whatever I have to say to them, romantic or otherwise.
Also, like, even in just with otaku, even in the case of their relationship with the media they consume, like they are not good with rejection and loss.
They don't handle endings well.
Which, like, I'm just like, everything we're saying now, I'm just realizing like these are kind of, I think this is part of why like everything Studio Gainax ends up being like so strong and so like strongly received, is just continuing ideas of just like, oh, they deal with these things that are like very resonant to like otaku and just like people who do have like mental and emotional struggles.
Yeah.
Which, like, knowing what I've known about, Hideaki Anno and all of that, like, okay, it's because it's cut, like, it's been shown that, like, a lot of the shows that, like, he makes or works on are, like, also him working through his own personal troubles. It's, like, making art as a form of therapy, and, like, you know what? I'm now way higher on this show with the idea is just like, yeah, no, the big resolution at the end is actually just like first baby step. Are things actually better? Probably not. But does somebody have taken a baby step? Yeah, like, that's a
and the first step is arguably the hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Celebrate
that's-
small victories.
So I think arguably listening to us talk about it has helped me kind of figure it out because, like I said, there was something there and I couldn't grasp onto it. But I think as we discussed this, that kind of helped me figure out itself. Like, what is the message here? Oh my God, maybe I am as smart as I think I am. There we go. Stroke the ego. Yes.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I think that's what we're dealing with. And again, like you said, Gynax absolutely loves to deal with this. Though I need to talk to you about Darling in the Franxx because I think we might have the one. Not everyone's a hit.
That would be interesting. I haven't actually seen it.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll come around to that. Because yeah, what is it? There's 2 things left on our list before we can officially draw this episode to a close.
Yeah, one of them's my favorite.
Hey Bob. How is your what are you currently watching? How's that going? You still on Outlaw Star?
I am so far not caught up on anything.
All right, fair enough.
I
Not
think
gonna lie.
season 2, the season we make Bob commit.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That would be like me opening up and, almost Mystery Science Theatering, watching episodes or something.
Yeah, I was gonna
That'd be
say,
pretty
what if we
good.
just watch things together?
I believe we were going to end up doing that before this show is over.
I
concur.
have a thought on that. If we'll
talk about it later. Yeah. Okay. And then last thing is, before we call the show done, we have to pick the show we're going to talk about next time.
Well,
Choose
good
your fate.
news. There's only one left in this category.
Oh God, that's
Down
right.
to 1? I thought we were down to 2.
We were, and then you picked Fooly Cooly.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we really are down to 1.
So the last show in our late night Toonami tier will be Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
You didn't read the thing.
The funny title.
This
The
is
cyborg stream of existential philosophical conundrums, also known as the Major has existential dread and a big old booty.
You got a big old booty.
Oh my.
Oh
I
God.
have
So
a
this
question.
isn't Ghost in the Shell, it's
No, this is Ghost in the
This is
Shell.
the show.
Yeah,
okay, it's not your OVA.
it's not the movie. It's not the bastardization starring Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
And it's not the thing that's on Netflix. Do not watch that.
Gotcha.
I have a
boy.
question.
Yeah.
I have an answer.
Because we have a list of android waifus. Are we
Yes, she
counting
does.
cyborgs as
Yes.
androids for this
Yes.
purpose? Okay.
Yes.
Cyborgs are not androids.
That's why
Yes.
I'm asking. Are we making
Yes.
it robot waifus?
Yes.
Or are we making it...
Why?
Yes.
Well, you are
Whatever
way
we
too
have to do to
excited for
make
this.
this. Yes. Yes.
Why?
Yes. Listen.
I think I
have a
know.
type.
Isn't this a robot lady? Oh,
I mean,
Well, I
she's
mean,
a
listen.
I've seen
brain.
the commercials for the movie when it came out, and people apparently did not like the movie.
Well, for one thing, they cast Scarlett Johansson as a Japanese woman, so...
Oh.
you know.
So, okay, I'm not that guy to defend their decision, but at least there is a line of logic that can arguably be made for it. I'm not saying I support it. I'm just saying
Oh boy.
because it's the brain, and arguably with the plot they present, it kinda can work.
Sure.
Again, I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying
They shouldn't have.
I agree. I agree.
Oh my. Okay, so
Anyway.
in our back channel chat, we will discuss some definitive definitions of things that we can allow onto or dismiss from lists. But we will do that in the meantime. So until the next time you hear from us, thank you everybody for hanging out and listening, and I hope to see you next time.
Go listen to Pillows.
Swing for the bat.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
Does this show have anything we can say in unison for the outro and then realize that we didn't watch an episode where they said it?
I don't know.
I mean, swing the back kind of house, but I think they did say it at one point in these episodes.
This show is so dense. This show is unfairly dense.